And then outside the ballroom around it in the Hilton, there's like all these like media parties, Washington Post, Bloomberg, Fox News, Wall Street Journal, all like pretty much every media company has like a party that's in the Hilton, that's in one of the rooms kind of like adjacent, like by the ballroom. So like when people are like, there's no security to walk in, it's because like, well, because most of the journalists there are just going to these like parties around, and they're not going to sit through the actual Correspondents' Dinner, especially this year with Trump. Some of them do, they go as part of work, but like most people that are at the Hilton that night are actually there for like these surrounding events, like the Puck pre whatever, they were doing something too. So I was there for that. So I was in the lobby shortly before that guy came, you know, was trying to do the shooting. I was not in the ballroom. I left.
You were missing from the room. When it went down.
I left actually to go to this party, this Substack party, which was at the Renwick, which was directly across from the White House. So as soon as I got there, the shooting had happened, and we got locked because it's directly across the White House. The Secret Service locked us in the Renwick, and so we were all locked in the Renwick with Substack people, basically.
With Michael Tracy about to beat you up.
Yes, that was when the Michael Tracy, Jim Acosta.
Oh, were you there for that?
Yes. I did see that drama. So yeah, there was a lot of drama that night, but yeah, it was crazy and weird and stuff. I mean, the White House Correspondents' Dinner is like just a dumb thing that they do every year to, you know, I think it's been so like devalued by now that it's like nobody takes it that seriously except like inside DC people maybe, but
now it's a security issue, right? Now we need the ballroom in because of the assassination attempt, right? Like, oh, that's so true, right? That's so bullshit in my opinion.
I mean, without it, we wouldn't have Trump, right? If Obama hadn't made those comments, maybe. So
God, yeah.
maybe he's the predictor of our next president. See what happens to this
down. Yeah.
Speaking of parties that you've been to, Taylor, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was there a party for the quote-unquote Cool Kids Table magazine cover? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
where it's like young...
Yeah, so that was actually, that party was the TikTok party. So TikTok hosted this huge party the night before the election of Trump during the inauguration. I was in DC covering the inauguration, specifically TikTok's lobbying. So I was at that TikTok party, yeah.
Well, because I want to connect that to something that happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, namely that Erica Kirk left in tears. And she is, well, this is the connection. She's also head of Turning Point USA. And there's this big conversation about you know, the future of the young right-wing party or the young conservative movement and what that's going to look like. And a lot of criticism in the aftermath of the White House Correspondents' assassination attempt. You know, Erica Kirk has this video where she looks like Sonya Blade. She's wearing this like, it just doesn't seem like she's fitting with this like young conservative mold. And you who've encountered right-wingers in the wild, both institutional right-wingers and young right-wingers.
And what's actually kind of funny about that is that I actually have a picture that I made of her as Sonya Blade. I photoshopped it. Okay, so I'm so cool. This shit. That was so good. That was pretty funny. You can see Charlie. Yeah, Charlie Kirk had I gave him the Johnny Cage.
I mean, I've seen so many generations because I also covered Trump. I covered the first Trump election. I was at the Hilton the night of the 2016 election when Trump came out. I went to the, you know, it was the Clinton people were at the Javits Center, and then the Hilton is where Trump had his party. And that night that Trump won in 2016, there were a few reporters, but it was mostly internet people. It was like forum admins. People that ran like big subreddits, like content creators, just weird like internet pilled people, and who also had the deplorable also the night before the 2016 inauguration, or January 2017. When Mike Cernovich got up and was like, we won, like we used the internet basically, or we used Twitter, you know, to like put Trump in the White House. So I think that there's multiple generations of like right-wing young internet pilled people, and to me,
yeah,
Erica
you had to
Kirk
buy your own fucking social medias like for that, dude.
Like, it is very like she's out of time.
Oh my god, these fucking people don't realize that you had to spend like fucking billions on Truth Social and ads and all this. You know, okay, I'll give that to right-wing people, that they're really good at just controlling media. They taught so much about like censorship, like Facebook and CNN, but like almost all of the media is right wing. Like you have Joe Rogan as alternative media, you had like the Fresh and Fit, you have all these different podcasts, you have Turning Point USA, The Daily Wire, you have people like Ben Shapiro, you have people like Matt Walsh, you have all this different crazy shit. You have entire social medias, X, True Social, specifically dedicated to catering to right-wing like stuff, like deliberately made that way, and because they believe that like Facebook, like Meta and all this shit was deliberately liberal, even though like you know, Mark Zuckerberg came out and said the Biden admin made me do this about COVID and blah blah blah. Dog, that's your private fucking social media thing. You didn't have to do, the Biden administration didn't force you to do anything. If they forced you to do something like at gunpoint or something, there should be like a lawsuit or something. And by the way, Meta came out and super batched Trump. Fucking Amazon, Jeff Bezos batched Trump. It's insane. It's a complete oligarch. It's completely ass-pained and ass-backwards. They complain about censorship, and then people like Elon Musk would come around and say that cisgender is a term that they're going to ban people for. Like, oh, they can't say cisgender on X. It's a little retarded.
And out of date, and I think the young ones resonate more with like Nick Fuentes and those types.
Yeah,
she's
they
too
do.
establishment. I think that like the appeal of Trump is that he's anti-establishment, and I think that like, I mean, you're just seeing this fracturing in the party. That's why Ben Shapiro's YouTube is like plummeting. You know, it's like he's part of that generation of that like establishment mindset.
So I think. Oh, go ahead, Guy.
Do you think Turning Point
on.
USA will be around in 5 years?
Yeah, because they're back.
Saying anti-establishment is also crazy, because the whole point of like conservatism, to be conservative, is like less spending, less government regulation. That does seem to be like anti-establishment kind of things, because you don't want more power, centralized power to the federal government. So why the fuck are we giving ICE a massive increase of a budget? Why is the deficit getting worse? Why are we placing unilateral tariffs instead of like going with Congress and voting on things? Like, there's not going to be any legitimate or formal immigration or anything like legislation coming out of the Congress and being passed into law by the president. It's all executive orders. It's all just like unilateral. It's literally the opposite of conservatism. It's the opposite of it, but whatever.
Backed by billionaires, so they're just going to astroturf it to death. It's never going to go away.
Fucking bullshit.
I think there's some truth to what you're talking about. I think maybe Trump is now starting to become the establishment for a lot of people. He's heading into his, you know, the halfway point of his second term here. But it's also just the case that I think when your party wins and you do political coverage and you know your party's in charge, you're playing defense the whole time. It's rough. Like the party out of power, like the benefit of being out of power is you can just play full offense the whole time. And
but not Candace and Tucker. Like, and Nick,
true,
like
yeah.
they've all done, like, I think that there are people, and that's why people like Jessica Reed Krause, Libs of TikTok, like a lot of, even like CC Drano, et cetera, like those people, they align themselves way too heavily with Trump. And you're right, they were doing things. And I think they didn't position themselves distanced enough where they're getting the downstream effects of it. And I think like Candace Tucker, all of those, that whole group, which includes, by the way, a lot of Instagrammers, a lot of like younger ones have made that separation.
Yeah. Well, I think when you have enormous audiences the size of like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, you're kind of insulated. I think you have more latitude to.
But she tripled her audience since Charlie's death, right? She's tripled her audience, and I think she's been able to grow that audience by going against MAGA, Trump or whatever.
No.
It's easier to get mad at the people in charge, which is why they were so, you know, flourishing when they were campaigning to say, look, they're fucking it all up, and then suddenly you give them the reins and you get these Dan Bongino, Kash Patel types, podcasters complaining about the establishment and these high-level roles, and they're like, oh shit, I can't do this. So,
but really, what is the it factor though? I wonder, because you describe Erica Kirk as establishment, and I guess in terms of vibes, I'd agree with you. But like, what is that? So what? That special sauce that gives someone like Candace Owens the ability to grow by 3 times, Tucker Carlson some insulation? Is it the ability to speak freely? Is it more mainstream appeal? What is it?
I don't think they speak freely, but I think they pretend like they speak freely, and they pretend like they're willing to challenge Trump, frankly, in very specific ways. You'll note that, you know, Tucker Carlson, for all he wants to talk about the genocide and all blah, 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 okay, he put Trump in office and he still meaningfully doesn't denounce MAGA in any sort of, like, you know, he's not becoming a liberal, right? So I think I think that they're able to seem really kind of like truth-telling and like independent and anti-establishment in a way that's just able to get them views. But I don't think fundamentally they've broken very much. I mean,
No,
they're
they
still
haven't.
hanging out
Not
in the
that
same
much.
right-wing circles, you know.
What do you make of the discourse about left-wing populists and right-wing populists sort of joining teams here? Obviously, Cenk has been a big component of this, but
He
it's
loves
become more
that.
relevant, I think, in this last week because I think Tucker Carlson is trying to set up a conversation with Graham Plattner. And I think he said he's considering having
yeah, I
that
saw
because
that.
kicked off like a whole round of discourse.
Oh,
Do you have
did
an
it?
opinion one way or the other on that situation?
Yeah, Graham should do it. No, why not? Why wouldn't he? Go on there. Here's
Speaking
my
of Hutch,
feeling on
are we voting blue no matter who?
100%. For
Let's
Graham
go.
Plattner?
I'm voting skull tattoo in this.
Did you
game.
guys
I'm
not like
illegally
Graham
voting
Plattner? I
skull
thought you guys
Irish
were Democrats. Wait, sorry, hold on. Are you guys pro or anti Graham Plattner?
I was skeptical of his judgment, and I was
Yeah.
thinking
Okay, I had
of
to
leaning
look.
more towards a Mills. But now
We don't
that
like the
it's clear
tattoo.
that he's probably going to win, and then or she dropped out. And it's like,
I had to take a look at Graham because I don't know anything about the guy, so I can't form an opinion on it. But I've always been pretty anti-establishment Democrat when I was like younger. I think I'm probably leaning more towards it now than ever. I would just see like major problems that like I think we need super bid reform. I think we need term limits for Congress. I think Congress needs to make like not $1,000, $100,000 salary. I think they need to make like minimum wage, which would incentivize them to like increase it, and also to like write legislation that kind of combats corporations and combats like poor policies that like kind of try to trample over poor people. I just think there's a lot that we could do. We could like criminalize stock trading. I think we could criminalize stock trading for Congress members. You know, I just think there's a lot of stuff that we need to change that is very anti-establishment Democrat. But that's kind of like more of my youth views. Right now, I guess I'm kind of more leaning towards the establishment Democrats more than I have been like leaning towards leftists. I've been trying to get away from the leftist shit. I've been trying to. I think it's very unhealthy. I think it's very unhealthy, the leftist shit. I'm not a big fan of Hassan Piker. I don't like that guy. But okay, let's keep going. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to start rambling on my points of views since I feel like I haven't really gotten them out there. I feel like that they've changed like quite a lot. There's like some things that I think are issues, but not like as big as other issues. Like when we talk about like social politics or like gender stuff or like race stuff, I feel like oftentimes that's like less important than like on a bigger scale when we need to focus on like the crazier shit that's going on with like immigration at ICE and also the war in Iran and all this like bigger stuff that's kind of a little bit more important I think at this time. But we'll see.
all right, look, blue no matter who. That's our motto, right?
I'm a pro Democratic Party Senate majority, I think,
that's a little
would be
bit.
the answer to that question. So I support
Okay.
him and think you should vote for him if you live in Maine.
All right. Well, moving on to one of the topics of today, which is the Supreme Court case where we have gutted voting rights. I don't know, Taylor, have you seen this and had a take on it yet, or no?
No,
So-
but
I
that
wanna
sounds
know.
terrible.
I want to know what the
I have a feel-
what's the actual defense of this. Like, what's the actual defense? Why did conservatives do this? I genuinely I don't know. I haven't like seen anything about them talking about it, so I don't know what the actual argument against like being pro gutting the Voting Rights Act like is. I don't know what it. I want to know what it is. I want to know what the actual argument is on that, because it's just fucking seems incredibly useless to do on like. It's just racism at that point, right? It has to be like I don't know.
You have a take on part of it. There was a lot of dark money that poured into that referendum.
yeah.
I have
Wow.
feeling. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, this is why we need transparency in the system. This is bad. Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
can you elaborate
I'm
on
like
that,
very
Guy? Like,
critical of all this
well,
stuff.
how much? I didn't know anything about this dark money part of the.
What are do you know the groups that have been funding?
The majority of money that was spent, like $90 million or whatever, was from dark money groups.
Yeah.
Spent on what, guy? What do you mean?
on ads promoting, yes or no on the referendum. This is to change the congressional districts in Virginia.
Oh, I was talking about the Supreme Court decision to allow all of these congressional redistricting to happen, or to, I guess the ultimate piece, so correct me if I'm wrong, essentially is saying it is now much harder to challenge potentially racial gerrymandering in any of these places based on their decision.
Okay, I thought we were just going to talk about the changes in general.
You're too up to date, guy. I'm 7 days behind.
Of the podcast.
Right. That's fine. That's fine.
Probably talking about like Texas, North Carolina.
I think there's a good conversation to have about the broader gerrymandering.
Even Florida is having a lot of redistricting stuff going on. So it seems like it's just a lot of gerrymandering going on with like it's a lot of shit. Like paying attention to the local laws, the state laws, and the federal laws is pretty overwhelming, honestly.
During fight because that really does unlock a shit ton of funding because people know it's really important. To Guy's point, there was an incredible amount of money that was spent on
you live in Texas?
The Virginia redistricting measure, and it was a closer than comfortable election, I think, for a lot of Democrats. But on the Supreme Court specifically, this is a decision which I think is pretty political. The gutting of one of the most storied laws in our history, coming off of segregation, the Voting Rights Act. And for all intents and purposes, Section 2 of that act, which prevents certain kinds of vote dilution, that was passed specifically to try to encompass even unintentional vote dilution of racial minorities, has been essentially gutted by Alito in this court in an opinion that really I think is not convincing, and it would be a little bit much on this podcast to get into the weeds about exactly why I feel it's unconvincing, but a lot of sleight of hand from Alito, pretending that he's just adjusting and updating precedent when he's like wholly overturning it, and pretending that any version of this law that was intended, it was to be essentially a worthless law that can never be enforced. And you're going to see a lot of litigation in the coming weeks to try to stop elections that are already underway.
Well, Pisco, I'm curious, and this isn't like an attack, it's just like the natural question that comes up.
Yeah.
Everyone's calling the Supreme Court super partisan, right? And they also just passed this thing allowing God, I can't pronounce it, the birth control pill to be tele-mailed to people, which is a progressive decision. Is this, them playing cover, but also being partisan? Is it like, oh, well, sometimes they compromise? Like, how do we square that circle? Like, where does that fit into the narrative?
Yeah, so I don't think that all of the Supreme Court's decisions can be thought of as totally explained by partisan blinders. I don't think that that's the case. And there are some situations where there's just no fair reading of precedent that would allow a certain decision to stand. So, for example, even in the tariff decision, I mean, there you kind of have business interests aligned with legal reasoning that really couldn't support these emergency tariffs of unlimited duration and unlimited amount and quantity. And so, in other words, I don't view the only metric and component the Supreme Court considers to be what benefits a particular party. I just think it's a very strong bias. And here you have an example of a building chipping away of the Voting Rights Act over the course of a decade plus, which seems ideologically rooted, where different issues that don't necessarily connect with each other, such as the Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act and certain aspects of constitutional racial gerrymandering, is being used, I think, to infect the court's precedent, which is otherwise clear that this kind of law is allowed under Section 2 of the 15th Amendment. So, in my opinion, like, you can't just say it's all explained by partisan bias, but you can look at the pattern here in the track record, and whenever there's an issue of enormous political consequence, like gerrymandering is, I think the court has put enough on its scale. And you can tell by how convincing the opinion is also, and if you read the majority opinion, it's not very convincing.
Well, Taylor, try to rope you into this. Do you think we should expand the Supreme Court?
I know a lot about my local law and my local courthouses because I've had technically 2, but I would say 3 because I reopened one. Technically just 3 civil cases where, like, I learned a lot about local law, and it was really good because I didn't have a lawyer. I went pro se, so I used like the law library. I used like my local library. I read like a couple books, I think 2 or 3. some like one main one was like a divorce book, and like learning just the local laws and the local lingo, like it's very different. So like one county in one jurisdiction is going to be extremely different from like the next county in next jurisdiction. Like specific cases are sent to specific jurisdictions that specialize in like different things, and then on the like the state level and then like the federal level, like I don't know enough about the Supreme Court like at all, honestly, to answer this question.
I have no idea. I did do my high school. You had to do like a big project, like a big research project, and I did it on the like FDR court packing plan from like the 30s or whatever that was. So I should like have a stronger opinion now, but I genuinely don't.
You don't remember your
What
high school project? God.
Well, like I kind of remember like the arguments for it back then, and I remember this was like a topic of conversation a few years ago, but I feel like it kind of got dropped. Are you guys? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's pretty chicken shit that the Democrats, I'm gonna be honest, this is one of my gripes that Desire and I share, don't fully embrace court reform now. I think it's necessary for all the other kind of regulation that Democrats want to pass is to do something and unpack the courts from when they were packed by Mitch McConnell and friends during that whole Merrick Garland situation. And so I'm frustrated that more Democrats aren't embracing it.
Okay. I think we're gonna have our weekly fight now. Pisco, are you ready?
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's gear up. I think like the job of advocating for packing the Supreme Court, which I would say I'm in favor of now because I just don't know what the better options are. It just feels like there's no good options really, and this is like the least bad option. But I think it's up to the commentators and people outside of the actual like political apparatus to make that case, because to me it like if it were up to me, if I was like advising presidential candidates, I would say probably don't run on it and don't like signal in advance that you're going to do it. But if we get a trifecta in 2028, day one, push the Senate to scrap the filibuster and just start doing good things like ban partisan gerrymandering, do court reforms, etc. But you understand that, like, would you acknowledge that there's like some risk that might not be necessary with the like heads of the party actually running on that policy?
Do I acknowledge that there's some risk? Yes, I acknowledge there's some risk. Yes, I do.
Okay. Maybe it's just maybe the only difference of opinion is just how much risk there is versus.
That was not a fight.
No, like I acknowledge there's some risk. I think the question is like how important, how vital, how critical is a certain thing to your agenda, and court reform is critical to our agenda if we want to get anything of consequence passed in this century, in the next 4 or 5 years, and being able to do it quickly. And so, given that it's essential, right, just like getting rid of the filibuster is essential, we just need to start acclimating our constituencies to create the kind of arguments and structures in favor of this, and make it an issue. Just like, by the way, you know, Trump has made an issue out of the ballroom. That's something else that's a current event, is out of the
I brought that up.
This whole chaos of the assassination attempt. Everyone's just talking about the ballroom. You have Ashley Sinclair, who, by the way, at some point we should invite to the podcast.
So all of MAGA is like, they super instantaneously started posting like on X, like thousands of people just going ballroom, ballroom, ballroom. That's why we need the ballroom. That's why we need it. We need the ballroom. Like, what the fuck, bro? Like, Jesus Christ. What the fuck? It's like the ballroom is going to be some fucking super bunker that they go into, and it's just like got like guns outside, like little security weapons, like auto cannons or something. It turns into a tower defense game. Like all the assassination attempters are to be fucking sprinting in a giant line. You gotta get gold from killing them and start building new towers and shit. It's just a tower defense in the ballroom game. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, why? On taxpayer dime too. It's crazy.
You see how they have these conversations behind the scenes, and maybe there's a nice dovetail into the chorus conversation at some point. About what messaging to do, and they're all picking ballroom, and like, so there is a way, I think, to shift opinion, and maybe part of that is being like strategic about who takes the lead here. And okay, fine, I'm not gonna make the most vulnerable representatives and senators be the ones to carry the flag here, but I think there needs to be some sort. Yeah,
I wouldn't say it's about them. I would say it's more about like the candidate. So whoever the candidate's going to be, if it's AOC or Kamala or Newsom or whoever. I do think there's strategic value in hiding your power level on this particular issue, because what I don't want to do is to juice an electorate that's pretty depressed. Like the MAGA electorate right now is really depressed. Like we're seeing the turnout on the Democratic side versus the Republican side. It's really bleak for the Republican Party right now. And as soon as you start running on, like the presidential nominee starts running on, we're going to get rid of the filibuster and then pack the court. I mean, that would be probably the most transformational thing that the government has done since like the 60s and the 70s with LBJ's like war on poverty and Medicare and all that stuff. And so that's my concern. Guy, what do you have? You look like
Well, I just don't think that people want to hear our leaders talking about getting rid of the filibuster right now. They want them focused on cost, like affordability and stuff like that. So I think that conversation will become much more relevant when Alito and Thomas bail out before the end of the year and Trump gets to nominate Emil Beauvais and Aileen Cannon to be on the Supreme Court. You can get a lot more people saying, okay, fuck this noise. But they've already packed the court. So I think it's just returning fire at this point if we do. But You're right, Hutch. You said it. Like, first you got to get rid of the filibuster. That's going to be a big task alone.
I don't know if it is, man. I actually think there's a very decent chance they get rid of the filibuster in the next trifecta. I really do. Yeah, I do. I think I don't know, man. Obama was on Brian Tyler Cohen's podcast just 2 weeks ago talking about how basically it needs to be done. And so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if more pressure kind of mounts. I don't think it's going to be a topic that comes up a lot during this like midterm cycle, but as soon as we get into the next presidential cycle, which I think is going to begin like right after the midterms, I think they're going to start announcing in like December. I do think like that conversation needs to be had, and I think there's more kind of leeway to talk about the filibuster, but I just hedge a little bit on committing to packing the court. I mean, what do you think, Soyfield?
I kind of understand the risk of, hey, this could hurt our chances and invigorate them to say, look, they're about to become draconian, take everything away from you. Everything you ever feared is going to come true. The thing is, they were going to do that anyway, and I'm not so sure that making them understand what even the filibuster is. Like, imagine explaining that to a MAGA voter. I don't think they'd want to vote for it because I don't think they get it. I don't think most people get it, and I don't think the MAGA voters are suddenly going to become this like even more cultish and loyal base because they're like, oh my god, like.
No, okay, they probably don't know what the filibuster is. I think that the biggest thing what liberals and Democratic people do is like they sit here and they talk about like what's going to hurt us the most, and the stuff that's always going to hurt us the most is that we do the most infighting over here. I say we. I want to be an independent so bad. I really don't like the Democrat Party, but it's just significantly better than fucking MAGA. I'm sorry. Overall, it's just the amount of infighting that happens over with the Democrats because they like, for example, like Dean Withers had a fucking meltdown over a fucking microaggression, and it like fucked up an entire pack, like an entire tour. Like they were doing a whole fucking thing with many creators, a bunch of content creators, pushing a bunch of events, going to do all this shit, and he like flipped down on Z over a like the tiniest little fucking shit, a microaggression. Like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
I'm not convinced we shouldn't kill the filibuster if Dems take the Senate in the next year. Like, if Dems take the Senate, why don't we just take the sting out of it and do it while Trump's in office?
I agree with that, for sure.
And just hit him with a bunch of legislation that is actually popular. Who knows, maybe do something good for the country. I mean, doubtful he'll pass it, but I mean, these kind of conversations I think are in the weeds anyway, in a way that like you guys are mentioning, people don't really care about as much as
Taylor, that wasn't a fight. So maybe
it wasn't really,
we'll dovetail into the chorus thing.
Well,
Taylor, I don't know if you know
before we get started, did you guys see that there is a job opening? So if you guys are big chorus defenders here, they're hiring.
Oh shit!
I applied after your article and they rejected me, so I don't know.
To be in the program?
Really?
That's
not fair. That's fucked up.
Yeah, I was like, more dark money.
But you would you disclose it?
Oh, absolutely. That's why I tweeted it out before it even happened.
So where's the problem? You know, like, yeah.
I mean, but just so you know, I've been trying to get Hutch to come to dinner every day, and I say, Hutch, where are you? What's going on, honey? Like, food's ready. It's getting cold. And he's just staring at this big wall of Post-its and pictures. He's been writing them on the pesto. So he's going to lead his this chorus discussion with you, so you know.
Yeah.
I think your overall focus on transparency when it comes to money in politics, that is necessary journalism that needs to happen. And in fact, despite the issues that I have with your article, and we can dive into that, I did learn a lot about like dark money structures because your article made me look into it. And so I do think that there's a really vital role for journalists to be discussing this issue. And so, you know, I appreciate you bringing attention to that. And I genuinely mean that. But I want to ask you just a few questions before we get into some other things here. What do you think is the crux of, like, if you had to describe the crux of your reporting in this Wired article, like what would you go with there? How would you describe it? Just, like, the main points.
Yeah, I think the main point is basically like what I want people to walk away with, kind of what you just said, which is that like this massive, notorious dark money group is funding this program that influencers took part in that claim to be journalists. And that these influencers basically were taking undisclosed political money while promoting political messaging. For instance, I think that let me just give an example. So I think that consumers and viewers, readers, whatever, right, like news consumers deserve the right to know if the person that they're receiving information from is, one, taking political money, and two, taking part in like messaging sessions, like getting, you know, sort of information given to them by certain political interests or whatever, right? I think that they should know that. Journalists, for instance, like myself, anybody that basically works in mainstream media, you cannot take part in any dark money political funding. That would be so unethical. It would violate every single ethics. You know, you could never do that and work in mainstream media. But I think the problem with influencers is that, listen, and I have friends in that program, but like some of them, it's like, whatever, they're political influencers. They don't feel like they have to disclose it. I think they should disclose it. But there are a lot of other people in those programs that are calling themselves journalists. And a lot of them actually wanted to disclose it. That's how that article came to be, is that 7 people in the program came together, 7 of them, and were like, hey, we wanted to disclose it. We want to post about it. We're being told that we're not allowed to, and we'll be kicked out of the program if we actually publicly disclose it. We think this is really wrong, and we want to blow the whistle on it. We've recorded all these Zoom calls. Here's screen recordings of all these internal text messages. Here's, internal documents. Here's all of the contracts. Here's all the contract negotiations. Here's all the internal guidance on what we're supposed to respond to, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, great, okay, well, let me reach out to Chorus and 1630 and talk to them about this. And obviously they didn't want to talk on the record, but I hope that people from that article demand more from the content creators and demand that these content creators are more transparent about funding. And most importantly, because I don't even think it should all be on the content creators' fault. As I said, so many content creators did want to disclose, and they were told they'd be kicked out of the program if they did. The people that run these programs, Courier Newsroom, I don't know if do you guys know Tara McGowan, Courier? That's
no, I heard
crazy.
you talk about them before, but
yes, they're like the
familiar.
other big. You guys should. That's like your type of. That's like the other big lib like thing that funds all the Democrat stuff. Like,
Oh, you're not a lib, Taylor?
Listen. I love the libs. I'm not hating on anybody, but
Hang on a second. You like free speech? You don't like the libs?
I do. No. I actually really like a lot of people I like a lot of people in Chorus, and I like a lot of people in all these programs. But
And I have black friends, Taylor.
What'd you say?
I'm not a racist. I have black
I have
friends.
black friends.
No, but I'm saying like that program is run transparent,
True.
right? There's a lot of other funding programs that are run transparency. Even Crooked Media, you could consider sort of a form of this, although it's quite different. It's a media company, but.
So overall, though, you're putting the emphasis on disclosure. You think the crux of your article is about disclosure.
I think it's about disclosure, and also unpacking what sort of, basically, if you sign a contract that says, if I take part in Chorus-based events, and that puts restrictions on my content, that should be disclosed.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that because that's worth diving into. But to your point on the disclosure, okay, so the section in your article where you dealt with the specific provision in the contract that barred the creators from disclosing that they were a part of a fund, like a dark money fund.
The program. They
funds.
talked that they were part of the funding program.
Right.
Yeah.
That, I think, was probably the strongest part of your article, because I think that does raise ethical concerns that are worth exploring and discussing and hashing out and kind of collectively deciding like what should the ethics be. But we'll get to some
Well,
of
they
that.
came out after. I mean, these content creators, several of them came out after the story came out and said, "We're proud to take dark money, and we don't owe you anything." So I think that's the energy that some of these content creators have, and I think that's a huge disservice. I think if they start to play that game, they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose. Like that's not you. You have the disadvantage in that system. The right has significantly more dark money than the left will ever have.
Well, let me
Was it in writing that they couldn't disclose? I don't know.
Yeah, it's in their contract. Yeah, it was in their contract. Yeah.
well, okay. I gotta hit one thing at a time here. I feel like you hit on
God,
like
I
5
need to
things that I
fucking
want to
heal.
unpack, but
Okay.
I want to keep my train of thought here. So the second question that I have for you is I think it was in your conversation with Pisco, where you were speaking about the importance of journalists and editors disclosing their partisan beliefs in their reporting. Was that your conversation with Pisco or on Doomscroll?
No. Well, I don't think that you have to do that. I say that, for instance, one reason that I really like to be independent is because I like to make my views clear on where I stand on certain issues. I think that makes me a more accountable reporter, because when I'm open and I disclose, hey, I'm coming to this issue with this perspective. Am I wrong? Like, I mean, I go to sources with this all the time where I'm like, well, this is my view, you know?
Well, Taylor, in the interest of transparency, earlier, I know we're being friendly here, but you do hate Democrats and libs, right? Like, I'm pretty sure you hate
Sometimes they
Democrats.
drive me
I'm pretty
crazy.
sure I've
I
heard
want
you say
them to
that.
win. I hate them because they keep losing. I want them to win. I want them to
Alright.
be Republicans. But I mean, obviously, I would.
Okay.
Obviously, I mean, I don't want the Republicans to win. They're especially not Donald Trump. He's a fascist.
But on this point, though, like I think you did.
But I do. My point is like, if you are a journalist, especially if you're a public independent journalist, I think it's to your benefit and to the public's benefit for you to be transparent. And I think one reason people don't like mainstream media is that mainstream media will put out content that clearly has a political slant. You know, certain writers at The Atlantic, for instance, right, that like are going to skew a certain way, but they can't come out and say it. And to me, that's a flaw in our media ecosystem. I think that you should be transparent.
Would it be up to the journalists to disclose that kind of slant in the reporting itself?
No, because it depends on your slant. Like, what are you talking about? Like, for instance, I cover identity verification laws. I'm very critical of ID verification laws. I'm very anti-surveillance. When I talk to the guy at the Age Verification Association, the trade group, I say, listen, I'm a huge critic of these laws. Convince me why I'm wrong. The goal of an article, like a journalistic article, is to be factual and truthful, and to get people to understand, you know, sort of the truth of a situation.
Right.
It's not necessarily to share your opinion on something. Some articles do contain more opinion, but most sort of like investigative work, or especially something like this, it doesn't have my opinion in it. Also because like 15 people worked on this article, and my original draft was so like, you know, it goes through like so much sort of editing and review, and so many people work on it, that it's just like the end product is mostly a result of like, what did the legal, you know, how do we need to sort of reword this so that it's legally factual and, you know, and stand up to some like defamation lawsuits. That's what they kept threatening.
Well, my sense of this particular reporting is that I think you do have a slant. I think you do. I think your opinion is
My
present.
slant is probably, I mean, as you can read from all my Wired reporting, it's against dark money, and it is a transparency.
Well, no, that's not the slant that I'm talking about. I think you have an anti-establishment slant. I think you've discussed. You've
chorus
described
is anti-establishment.
Well, hang on, real quick. You've described yourself as on the left, or I think you even hinted that you were identified with the label of leftist. I think in your conversation with
in
Doomscroll,
certain on
and
certain
when you read
issues.
the article, it's like really clear that you have villains in the story and you have heroes in the story, and you have kind of a larger narrative that I think goes beyond disclosure,
but like 15
right?
people were right, but like my name is on the top. But as you know, with an investigation like this, especially one that went to the top, that like 15 people worked on this story. So
Oh, well, I understand that, but like, for example, so you assigned the label centrist to Olivia Juliana.
which is how she self-identified.
No, she self-identifies as a progressive, right?
No, from what I found from my original reporting back from the New York Times, back when I had interviewed her years ago, she was identifying as a centrist
boy.
Democrat back in Texas. That was her whole thing. In
2024.
Maybe it was whenever I spoke to her, which was quite a while ago. But just to be clear, she never took issue with that. She never reached out for a correction on that at all. We would have been happy to, like, if she
Well,
had.
no, I mean, nonetheless, that is an opinion, right? Subjective. It's a very subjective label.
No. It was how
centrist.
she. Well, first of all, I think we can correctly identify people's political sort of affiliations. For instance, if she's, correct me if I'm wrong on Olivia Juliana, and Olivia Juliana works for Chorus, but her whole thing was that she was a Democrat in Texas, right? Who had done a lot of work with like reproductive justice.
Yeah, right. So she focuses on abortion, LGBTQ+,
Right,
climate,
right.
voting rights. When I look
Yeah.
at these sort of policy priorities, that does not strike me as a when I think of a centrist, I think of Joe Manchin. I
Okay.
think of like Jared
again,
Polis
if
in
Olivia,
Nebraska, right?
if Olivia wants to reach out, and we honestly, the thing that you're bringing up mostly comes up on the right, because for instance, when I've covered Nick Fuentes, he will say, well, I'm not a white nationalist, or Chuck Johnson, who I cover all the time, or not so much anymore, actually, he's less relevant, but he would constantly say, well, I'm not a Holocaust denier, right? And so I think at some point you do have to take a look at certain people's, beliefs and what they've expressed and try to categorize.
How would you
them
define
correctly.
centrist? How would you define centrist?
A Democrat? A Democrat that's probably
very-
middle of the road, like a middle of the road Democrat, like a Democrat that could operate in a red
No.
state probably, and a blue state maybe equal, like somebody that sort
very
of appeals
broad,
to both.
though. That's a very, very broad.
Well, it's kind of like the centrism itself. Like
Democrat, just
as I think
that's
about it
it?
and sit here, there's a kind of identified more Schumer-oriented Democrat, more moderate Democrat associated with a centrist label,
Well,
and it is kind of vague, right? It's a kind of
pretty
vague
but
term.
also like hasn't, I wouldn't say that the Chorus. I mean, Chorus has made content with Schumer. Like, I guess I would say it's a very vague term. It's probably the most broad term, because I don't think we want to get it again like too
Well,
specific.
the
but-
important thing here, Taylor, is to Hutch's point, based on, and I found this when I read your article
Yeah.
too. You use centrist as like a pejorative, right?
No, for this one we say that like when
No,
the
in general you do. You've used you don't like the Democrats, and you especially don't like centrist Democrats. This
I
is
am
just like
centrist
your
on certain
ideological.
issues. I think it depends on the
Well,
type
no,
of.
I
Do you
know,
use
but
centrist
in
as a
general,
pejorative,
In
is the
general, you
question.
use centrist as a pejorative, right? Like you view these people as like these feckless do-nothings, and like
I think you're completely putting words in my mouth that I have not said. I think I don't like Chuck Schumer, and there's a lot of what he says, but there's a lot of people that are quote unquote centrist that I absolutely respect and work with, and that worked on this article. Like there's people just to be clear, this article went through so many editors that have such a range of political beliefs, and I hear you that maybe you disagree that Olivia Juliana is classified as we described her, a centrist Gen Z influencer who spoke at the 2024 DNC.
Own a vacation rental? If it's not listed on Booking.com, it's invisible to millions of travelers on our platform. Don't let your vacation rental be invisible.
Shut up.
I
She
think
has
when you
not
look at
taken
her,
issue with that, and
well, that's beside the point. I
Wait, but
mean,
you
whether or not
basically
she disputed it,
disagree
I think
with
if
a-
most people, well, hang on, just let me real quick. I'm trying to be. I'm not trying to cut you out very much. So just let me say
Okay,
that.
sorry.
I think if like a reasonable person went to Olivia Juliana's feed and they saw her policy priorities, I think that they would colloquially understand her to be just sort of like a standard Gen Z progressive Democrat who's focused on progressive issues.
progressive is also the reason progressive has come up so much, and somebody was trying to get me to write a story about this recently, which I was like, this is not really my beat, is because so many people have tried to replace the word centrist with progressive, and this has been like a thing that influencers were actually given. This is totally separate from my story, and this is
Have they? I don't think so. I personally haven't seen it, but I mean, that might be true. That might be the case. But I always thought that progressives were kind of more left-leaning, and centrists were always saying both sides are bad, both sides are bad, both sides are bad. I always thought centrists were never really down the middle people. I always thought centrists were kind of more both sides are bad, blah blah blah. They're both taking money from Israel, which I like to think that most of them are. There's a good 100 people that take AIPAC money, but as far as like the conspiracy that goes, I don't know enough about that, and I can't speak on it. But I think that's what most centrist people would say, is that both sides are bad, versus where like more progressive people, I think, are just leaning more left, right? I don't know.
like something else. Maybe I'll write about it. I don't know. Probably not. But there is an effort as certain words become stigmatized or have negative, maybe you're saying this has like a negative view with some people, they're trying to use other words. So you see them use the word progressive instead of centrist, or the word whatever.
No. I'm not talking about self-assigned labels. I mean, I think most people would look at her policy proposals and think, okay, that's just.
What
like
would you think about Biden, Hutch? I mean, let's be honest, right? Like, so if Biden were described as a centrist Democrat,
Olivia Giuliano was a Biden dead ender, so she absolutely is a Biden Democrat.
That does not. No.
Would you describe Biden as progressive?
Hang on, yes.
AOC and Bernie were Biden dead
exactly,
enders.
yes. AOC
Totally,
and Bernie Sanders
were. Them as Democrats. I guess they're not.
AOC is
they're progressives, right? They're progressives, right? That doesn't make them as centrists.
I would call them democratic socialists, right?
Well, listen, if you had to choose between progressive and centrist to describe AOC and Bernie, what would you choose?
It totally depends on the context of the article. Because Bernie has been because look at what Bernie's been doing with his AI policy. Like I think
nobody would call him a centrist. Nobody
I wouldn't call him, but I wouldn't call him progressive either on certain things. I don't understand what these words mean anymore. I mean, like more broadly, you said that there were 90.
True. I don't understand it either.
90 people? Is that how many people you saw?
So just to be clear, I understand that you take issue with the way that editors categorize these people, but
that's an opinion, though. You're inserting.
It's not an opinion. Well, this is Chuck Johnson saying that us calling him a Holocaust denier is an opinion, or us saying that Tucker Carlson is a right winger is an opinion. All we can do is try to best reflect the ideology that often we use self-described ideologies, but all we can do.
I think she self-describes as a progressive at this point. So that's where I'm a little bit confused.
At this point, maybe, but I would say again, if you ask actual people that are further to the left than her, they will say not. So
well, that's the issue. That's the issue.
Right, and that's the
left tankies will call Bernie Sanders a centrist, but it's not accurate.
No, but that's the issue, because I think you're framing your article from the position of the left.
But I didn't even write that line.
No.
But I didn't even write that line. So like
your name's on that. Your name's on that.
Of course, but I want you to understand how journalism works, right?
Okay.
The way that journalism works, it's not just that Wired is my personal blog and I can go and write whatever I want, right? And I can just go and publish on Wired and nobody's going to look at it, right? No, especially with an investigation like this, the way it happens is I find information, right?
They found me. They found
people
me.
trying to whistleblow in this case about a program that they're in. And I go to an editor and I say, hey, I have all of this source material, all of this people. Would you be interested in a story? Yes. Okay. I work with that editor to draft the story. It then goes through rounds, in this case, rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds of review from many different editors that not only transform the story, rewrite parts of the story, add things, take things away, but also then it goes through legal review. Then it goes through copy edits.
There we
and stuff.
go.
Like
Yeah,
it
I
goes
understand
through, but I just want you to understand, because I think
so Joe Biden would describe himself as a centrist Democrat, correct? Yes or no?
No.
Wait, can you answer that first? Can you answer that? So the question you should ask,
We can have a
Taylor, did you?
Let me finish my track.
The question that you should ask is,
God.
Taylor, were you attempting to imply something nefarious when you use centrist there? Were you trying to imply that they were aligned with the DNC?
Well,
ask the question about her intention.
Listen, Taylor, respectfully, I think you were doing. I think you were doing that. I think you were.
I didn't even write that. I wrote the list of influencers' names. I didn't even originally.
Well, here we have. But we have another spot here where you say that.
Hutch, before you do the next thing, because
I can't.
Taylor, you did say that I was putting words in your mouth, but if you search on your Twitter centrist, it's very clear that you use this as a pejorative term, and like that can be your opinion, that's fine, but to claim that that's not like your ideological spin is a little frustrating.
Sure, but I would say, in what context is it? Is it in what context? Because I think, certainly, do I get annoyed at certain centrist people? Sure.
I think that there was an intention there to be disparaging, and I think it's broader than that.
Okay, but this is just honestly, I didn't write the sort of things.
Okay. So I think Hutch and wait, who?
She had taken. Just let me finish.
Yeah, I think Hutch is trying to say that she's trying to be malicious with her intent of calling people centrist. Whereas she probably shouldn't be, because it might not be like as accurate as she's claiming it is. So I think that's Hutch's claim, is that she's trying to use the term centrist on people in a nefarious sense. I think that's kind of what I'm picking up from this.
Just let me finish.
Well, you have been cutting me off pretty consistently throughout this entire.
All right.
My God,
well,
it started to get hostile.
We're not going to be able to have a conversation, because we're talking about a story that was edited by so many people, and I don't know what to tell you other than
Okay, so are you distancing yourself from that label?
Oh my
then?
God! If Olivia Juliana had reached out after that story and said, "You grossly mischaracterized my views. I'm not a centrist. Take it out. You mischaracterized it, whatever." I would have been happy to bring that to the editor, and the editor could have looked at her positions and decided whether or not that was correct.
Taylor,
This is how
her
journalism
opinion.
works.
But Taylor, her opinion is not especially relevant. Like if you're saying that,
Olivia's?
if you're saying that the language,
Olivia's
if you're saying that the centrist language
Oh my God.
was
Oh
not
my
something that
God.
you picked, is that your way of saying that you're kind of distancing yourself from that language?
I would have until this conversation called Olivia Juliana a centrist because she's a Democrat in a red state. And I would imagine that most people that are the Democrats in the red states lean to the center. Also, when I had spoken to her years ago, that was my understanding of her. And also, that's, again, we did not receive any criticism of this. This is the first criticism that I've even heard of this.
Well,
so
I think it's important because I do think that it was.
I'm sorry you feel this way, but this is just completely
Well, you don't need to apologize to me. I'm just.
Well, I mean, it's just completely unproductive.
I feel like you're becoming quite defensive and evasive right now.
No, it's
And
frustrating
I feel like I'm
because I feel like I'm
asking
dealing
very.
with the white nationalists because this is all I do all
Really?
day is go back and forth with the white
Hutch is
nationalists.
bald by choice, but it's not because
It
of
is
that.
just, it is the same ridiculous argument where it's like, oh,
You think the
white
questions that I
nationalists-
asked you amount to like being questioned by a white nationalist?
Wait. Hutch is bald by choice? Oh my God, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it with Hutch. I don't like bald people by choice. All right. I sometimes I don't even like bald people by not choice, like Jada Pinkett Smith. Fuck that bitch. All right.
I will
That
tell
seems a
you, they are
little
the
much.
exact. Why don't you listen? They are the exact same words you're using, the exact same method of saying, right? When we write about Tucker Carlson, and I've gone back and forth
Hey,
with
Leah.
Tucker Carlson's team on this exact issue, right? We'll say, well, we characterize
more to
you
go.
as XYZ, far right. Right? Far right is actually even more common than the right with white nationalists. And every time I write about a right-wing influencer and we say, well, we are, whatever, here's the article, here we're asking for comments, blah, 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 blah. They will say, I'm not far right. I'm not far right. I'm progressive. In some cases, they even say, even Tim Pool types, I'm actually progressive. Okay, but
Taylor, I think
they're
the
not.
point.
Just let me finish.
Well,
So
Taylor,
my
you've been cutting me off this whole time.
Well,
Respectfully.
okay, respectfully,
All right. Well then,
all I am saying is that when you're writing an article, we do our best to be accurate. Now, if
Oh, hell
Olivia
yeah.
Juliana is not a centrist and that's so inaccurate, again, she could happily request a correction from Wired. She never did. No
Well,
one
Hutch,
brought this up.
can I
This was
reframe this? 'Cause,
never,
like,
ever raised.
The point is not necessarily whether or not it's accurate to call her a centrist. If this was like the specific pedantic sticking point, I can see
Well,
this
that
like,
seems
oh,
like
this is
it-
for.
that
Well,
seems
but
like
no,
the
but
whole
but it's
conversation that we're
not.
having.
What Hutch is getting at is that this article is clearly viewed as, hey, we're painting these chorus people who are taking this money as these kind of shills, these DNC operatives who are just paid to get these talking points and just repeat exactly what the do-nothing centrist Dems do, right? And that's kind of where the perspective that he's saying this is kind of like an opinionated.
That's taking a lot from an article that doesn't say a lot, and I don't doubt that that's how TikTokers were taking it, and that's not how TikTokers and people
Taylor,
on Instagram threads are
can I-
taking it. But if you actually read the article,
Taylor,
you will
Taylor.
see that it is quite clear what we said. And this is not a DNC.
Listen. But
This is poor Shelby at the DNC had to literally kept being like, guys, this is not a DNC program. Obviously, they support the DNC. But the
Taylor.
DNC has its own influencer program.
on August 27th, you tweeted, the 90 influencers involved appear to be primarily centrists, pro-DNC,
Yes.
who have not spoken about Palestine, are pro-Israel. Those are your words.
Yes.
But you just said a moment ago you're kind of distancing yourself from that framing.
No, I didn't. What are you talking about?
That's what Toy Pill just confronted you with, and you said, well, I can
Oh my
understand why
God.
people walked
That they
away
are
with that,
centri-
but those are your
again,
words.
I'm sorry. They are centrist. Again, if Olivia Juliana is not a centrist, and that is factually wrong, and these people are not centrist, and this is factually wrong, that these content creators that are making content with Chuck Schumer, that are making content with Hakeem Jeffries, if they are not, if I was wrong, if this article is wrong, and it's factually wrong, then I highly encourage them to ask for a correction.
Hutch and everybody's trying to defend the DNC, I guess, where she's claiming that they're taking a bunch of dark money, and Hutch and all them are like, well, actually, it's not the case, and you're mislabeling them as centrists. So you're just basically, I think they're just misrepresenting the party, which, like, I understand. I feel like they're being pretty hostile. I don't know exactly the details as to the article. I kind of want to read the article. Oh, fuck off, dude. I kind of what did Destiny say about this shit? Just didn't he come out with something about this?
Doesn't matter.
Not relevant.
Well, I think it's important.
I've always been kind of on the side of like Israel's bad in general. Obviously not the anti-Semitic side where I think like obviously I'm not attacking the religion. I'm not attacking Judaism. I'm not attacking the race. I don't want to be anti-Semitic, but I just think that the overall like you know, the direction that the Israeli government has taken has been pretty bad. I clearly don't know enough about it, which is why like I don't want to like commit too far onto like opinions, or like I want to openly admit that some of my younger like years and like even my more recent years, like the last 2 or 3, I've been a little bit more radical than I think that I should have been. I like to try to reflect on myself, and I think that's a good thing. But at the same time, like there are plenty of actions I think that Israel has taken that have been pretty standard. I think that most people would do. Like when they're attacked, they would attack back, right? Like you wouldn't just sit there and do fucking nothing, like with October 7th and whatnot. I think they definitely take things too far, 100%. I don't know if it technically constitutes as a genocide. I think I've called it a genocide in the past with the Palestinian people, but like I feel like a genocide is like a deliberate eradication of like a whole of people, and if they wanted to do that, they would have already done it. I just think that the terminology there is a little bit pushy, but yeah, I think it's defined as deliberate. I don't know. Hamas is bad. The IDF is bad, in my opinion. I think they need like a lot of work, honestly, and it's not impossible, but I just think it's a lot of bad here and there.
That's the point, right? Is that they haven't published the roster. They haven't published the roster, but a decent amount of ones that we checked.
Did anybody in the people that you mentioned in the article, so like Olivia Packman, Brian Tyler Cohen, did any of them post pro-Israel content?
You'll have to go check their specific feeds, but Brian Tyler Cohen.
You claim that they were primarily pro-Israel, right?
Yeah, well, some people that are pro-Israel just don't speak about the genocide in Gaza at all, for instance, and that's
not
another
the same thing as being pro-Israel.
Yes, because the way that pro-Israel narratives have been shaped by the media is by not mentioning the genocide. So intentionally refusing to cover the genocide, especially as it was this politically relevant topic.
Is that what you were alleging?
No, I'm just saying, like, if you look at the pro-Israel kind of creator landscape, there's a range of pro-Israel people. There's people that are straight up making content with the IDF. They're super overt about it. And then there are people that are a little bit more behind the scenes, people that are a little bit quieter about it. They might not be overt, but they're still
But by the way, that you're suggesting that if somebody chooses not to discuss the genocide in Gaza, and like that makes them pro-Israel. I find that to be
no, that's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Wait a second.
What I said is that some people, no, what I said is that some people who are pro-Israel, the way that they sort of, the way that their content manifests is that they are not as overt. So what they'll do is they'll try to tamp down discussion. They'll be sometimes deleting comments, a lot of times just intentionally ignoring the issue, or when they're asked, to interview a politician, especially this was a big issue in the lead up to the 2024 election, you had people saying, like, sort of minimizing the issue, attempting to minimize it, attempting not to get people on the left to talk about it.
Okay,
and
does that qualify, does that apply to any creator that was mentioned in your article?
Well, you'll have to go through and do an audit of all of their content, but it's certainly
it's not your job, though. You made the claim.
Yeah,
you said that the group was primarily pro-Israel. Isn't it your job to go through their
from the group that we saw, from the amount of creators that we saw, that was a common theme. But that wasn't necessarily a.
You didn't say a common theme. You said they were primarily pro-Israel.
Yeah, from the group of creators that we saw, that we were evaluating.
So I'll ask again, was anybody that you mentioned in your article someone that you would say was pro-Israel?
Well, you'll have to go look at the article and figure that out for yourself based on the creators.
Wait, not all of them. You, I don't understand.
But we're not going to, there's a lot of creators that we spoke to for this article that we know are in chorus that weren't mentioned in the article.
I'm just asking you if anyone in your article you consider to be pro-Israel.
Well, I don't know. You'll have to, I really don't. I don't remember which creators that we named and didn't name off the top of our head, but I think you can just go and look at them and frankly ask the creators themselves. That's a great thing
I
to
just
do
don't know why
as
you
well.
would say that 90 influencers were primarily pro-Israel, but you can't name a
No.
single
We
person
said
in
90.
your report.
We said the creators that we were able to suss out as being part of the program. So one thing that we asked, is for them to publish a roster. So that
These people who are like super obsessed with like attacking people who are pro-Israel to any pro-Israel to them just means pro-genocide, pro-awful everything. Like it is too radical. It is too radical. It is too extremist. I think there's a point where it's like you can't. It's like that one guy. Who's that guy that does that fraud fucking VTuber shit? Who I forget his name, but he came out and basically said that any Jew in the entire world, like, it doesn't matter if they're in like a different country, they have to condemn Israel. They have to denounce and condemn Israel. It's like, dude, they're nowhere near this. They like, you're holding them to an unrealistic standard to like hold something on the other world accountable. Like, just because somebody might be Jewish, like racially, or someone like might be Jewish where they practice Judaism, that doesn't mean they have to fucking any responsibility to or accountability to hold for what the fuck the IDF or Israel has been doing on the opposite side of the planet.
But in your conversation on Current Affair, you did absolutely buy into the manufacturing logic that those hosts were presenting, which they were saying, like, they were heavily suggesting that the creators that were invited into chorus were chosen because they were not speaking up about Gaza.
So you're talking about a guy that used to work for Brian Tyler Cohen, who was working.
No, I understand that, but you agreed with that
you
frame.
for David Pakman. Well, listen, I'm not going to disagree with whatever he wants to say with his experience working for David Pakman, one of the leaders of Chorus. This is his former
He was
producer.
commenting on your report. He was going beyond his experience, and he was suggesting that Chorus was choosing creators because they were not speaking up about Israel.
He said that he was told when he worked for David Pakman that they were not supposed to be overt about the Israel stuff.
No,
and you can go back and listen to that and take issue with that.
That's
But
not what I'm talking about.
he worked for David Pakman. I'm not going to argue with him working for David Pakman.
Taylor, he was speaking about your report. They were
in the
characterizing
context
your
of
report.
his job, he worked for David Pakman. He was David Pakman's producer, so he would know better than anyone whether David Pakman, what his boundaries were around issues related to Israel and what sort of content they wanted to put up. He would know. He was literally David Pakman's producer, so he knows a lot better than I do. He has a lot more visibility into David Pakman's content than I do.
I think you're being evasive again because I'm not talking about his experience. I'm talking about his characterization of your reporting.
Well, his characterization is shaped by his experience, which he has a lot more of than I do.
But you bolstered that suggestion of manufacturing consent about this issue in Gaza.
I'm gonna again defer you to him. He actually worked for David Pakman. So you
agreed with the framing, Taylor. You agreed with the framing when they were having that conversation.
He worked for David Pakman, so if he says that these were the lines that David Pakman drove when he worked for him, and that David Pakman told him this, and he had visibility not into just David Pakman, but all these sort of people that David Pakman worked with, I am going to listen to him because, again, he's a primary source.
Okay. Another part of your reporting referred to an older article that you wrote, I think a few months before this Chorus one, and you had described a 2024 situation where the Biden administration was, your quote was, snubbing creators who had lightly criticized Biden. Do you remember saying that?
I think you're talking about my Washington Post article when I wrote about the Biden administration effectively blacklisting content creators.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in your Wired article about Chorus, you described that as the Biden. You said in 2024, President Joe Biden's White House snubbed several prominent content creators after they lightly criticized the administration over its policies on climate change, COVID, Gaza, and the TikTok ban.
Yeah, they did.
Okay. My issue with that is the word lightly, because I actually clicked on that article and I looked up the creators that you mentioned in that article. One of them was Aiden Cohn Murphy. He was tweeting that Biden created a man-made famine, was ignoring the law to
Yeah, but he was
genocidal
blacklisted before
attacks.
all of that. He was blacklisted for the climate stuff.
Well, you mentioned him, and so like when you say lightly,
but at that point he had only lightly criticized. So the Biden.
No, that's not true. I went through his tweets and I found tweets in 2024.
You're talking about Aiden Cohn Murphy, who is the co-founder of TikTok for Biden. Just to be clear,
I understand.
co-founder of TikTok for Biden. So Aiden ended up being very critical of Joe Biden.
That was a 2020.
However,
That was a 2020
however,
effort, right?
No, that was well into 2022. That
The
was
TikTok for
midterms.
Biden?
Yeah, exactly. Gen Z for Change was
But in
TikTok for
2024,
Biden.
but in 2024, Taylor, he was directly accusing Biden of being complicit in genocide.
But we're not talking about that. He's speaking, by the way, as a member of Gen Z for Change, and he's talking about the evolution of TikTok for Biden through Gen Z for Change. And part of the reason why TikTok for Biden became Gen Z for Change, and part of the reason why there was this whole evolution, is because Biden's digital, whoever was in charge of sort of digital press there, was blacklisting creators that were even just lightly critical. And I'm not saying that
These
Aiden.
creators were
I'm
not lightly criticizing
Right,
Biden.
yeah, they're
maybe
definitely
Aiden
not
eventually
lightly.
was not, but
It
I
wasn't
will
just him. There was also Elise Joshi. She made similar accusations. She accused the Biden administration of being complicit in genocide, right?
No. But Elise wasn't banned for any of that. It was the climate stuff. This was the climate stuff, and for COVID. So this is all back in. No, this is all back in 2022, 2023, even 2021, when Biden started to say, hey, COVID is over, everybody get back to work. A lot of disability justice activists, a lot of climate activists were like lightly being like, hey, well, what about this? What about these promises that you made, right?
Okay,
Khalil
it's just-
Green.
In your course article, you do reference that several creators were snubbed for lightly criticizing him, and
Yeah,
then when I
that's
click on the
true.
hyperlink, you know the creators that you did mention, they were not lightly criticizing
Well,
Biden.
because
you
those
know.
are some of the people that we quoted as giving sort of expert commentary on that on that fracturing, which is again quoting Aiden, the founder of TikTok for Biden, talking about Gen Z for Change. But a lot of the creators that were ultimately snubbed, I would say, blacklisted, they would say, they certainly did not. In some cases, people from the digital team just didn't like that they were liking posts that were critical of the administration.
Well, I read
Biden-
the article. I didn't read anything about that. I just read about.
Well, I'm
these
happy to
creators.
elaborate. The
Well,
Biden-
to zoom out, Taylor, I mean, the point here is not just, oh, did
To
they or did they
zoom
not
out.
lately criticize? It's that if you read this paragraph, it seems to be that you're painting President Joe Biden and his administration as this snowflakey, like, oh, you can't even say the slightest bad thing. But in reality,
they were extremely the Biden administration, the way that they dealt with not just the sort of the creators, compared to Obama, not compared to Trump. Trump's even more crazy. But really, I would say compared to Obama, they were incredibly sensitive. And I think that sensitivity only grew throughout his presidency for so many reasons. Number one, he was older. And, I think there was a lot more protectionism. They were less likely to let a lot of creators in. They were getting nervous about unfiltered press. This is also why they started to get very prickly with the
Okay, none of what she's saying is like irrelevant to the fact that the people who were super left and like leftists talking about pro-Palestine, talking about the environment, talking about pretty much anything that's like a super big issue that you're going to see people out in the streets for. A lot of people online, they are really aggressive. It is kind of true what they say about how leftists and left-leaning people are very aggressive. They're the violent ones. There's a little bit of truth to that when it comes to just regular people. But what right-wing people don't understand is that there's no truth to that when it comes down to like actual lawmakers, actual people in office versus like them. It's everybody in the streets, is all the voters, but it's also like their government officials. It's also the president. It's also the vice president. It's also the richest people on the planet. It's also your local lawmakers. Like, it's crazy. Like you see one thing pop up and then all of a sudden your local senator, your state senator, or your governor comes out, your Republican governor comes out and starts posting AI images of Donald Trump as Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not even comparable. Like, yeah, there are plenty of people on the left, like as a person myself who's been very radical on the left, who's had very radical left views, and has been pretty extreme about it. Like I have posted some violent things when I was younger, and even more in my recent years. Like again, I'm gonna own up to that. But at the same time, like that does happen, but nowhere near on the scale as like the right. But at the same time, that is what happened. That is a completely valid reason to blacklist or like to not want someone to join your political party. If you don't want those kind of radical people to hop into your political party, that doesn't mean you're centrist or pro-Israel or like it doesn't mean anything. Like it's a non-issue.
actual journalists as well. And again, nothing compared to
shotgun.
Trump. Like, Trump kicked out all the reporters from the Pentagon and just gave us influencers. However, he was incredibly prickly, and still even compared to his team, compared to most of the other.
Well, Taylor, I'm just going off of your reporting, and I did read both of these articles like multiple times. I tried my best to really take what you were saying at face value and approach it in good faith. And just in your reporting, the creators that you did cite, I think, went well beyond lightning.
Eventually, but not when they were blacklisted.
No,
Eventually,
in 2024. In
Contemporaneously?
Khalil Green. I'm sorry, Khalil Green. And Khalil Green is not a radical. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not true. Like, these are not a lot of these people. A lot of these.
I'm not
people,
calling them a radical. I'm just. I'm
okay, but I'm saying
taking issue with
not,
your characterization of their criticism.
Elise and Aiden eventually began criticizing him a lot more openly. However, neither of those started criticizing him very openly
in 2024.
No, okay, but neither of them were doing that when they got blacklisted. And Khalil Green has never come out and been some sort of aggressive critic of the Biden administration.
What was the timeline for when they got blacklisted? Do you remember when that happened?
After between 2020 and 2024.
Tired of being stinky and
Nope. I love being stinky and unattractive. Just kidding. I'm hot as fuck.
Sort of throughout that whole time period, because it was COVID, it was climate, it was Gaza eventually, it was student.
The examples that you gave, they were not light criticisms.
COVID,
when I read
COVID.
them, so.
Well, COVID, a lot of this was also them trying to do stuff behind the scenes. I mean, these were people that, and not just them, by the way, this was dozens of content creators had this experience, and journalists as well had this experience throughout the Biden administration. You can read about it in Alex Thompson's great book. The Biden administration was they became more and more intense about restricting access to the administration, restricting access to press, they for good reason. Now we know why, but it is a fact.
Okay, I want listen. I don't want to bombard you. Let me make one more kind of if you don't mind, if you're okay, I'd like to ask you just one more question regarding the piece, and then we can kind of get to the overall point and just finish.
How come you never asked me or Pisco or Matt?
Okay, let's hear it.
So the part of your reporting that I think is the weakest, the most vulnerable to attack, is your characterization of the contract language. Specifically, when you talked about the contract required chorus creators to funnel booking appearances through chorus, they had to get express authorization before they what was it, put up content or set up interviews, this kind of a thing?
No, they had to leverage the chorus newsroom, and they were making but when they were booking appearances
in the contract, that's what it said.
Yeah.
But that's not, well, we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, and look, like, certain people had certain aspects of the contract enforced against them. Certain people didn't have aspects of the contract enforced against them. And
did you speak to any creators that were told that they had to funnel all their bookings through Chorus?
We did speak to a creator who didn't sign the contract because of that.
No, that's not what I asked. Hang on.
Yeah, they were told that. Yes, they were told that. Yes, they were told that.
Not that they were told. I'm asking you, did you actually get a single example from any creator who actually had to funnel booking through Chorus?
Well, yeah, we spoke to a lot of creators that funneled booking through Chorus.
No.
Yes.
Hang on. I'm asking you, did you talk to anyone that told you that all of the bookings that they did had to go through Chorus?
We spoke to a creator who was told that all of the bookings that they had to do were, if they wanted to do bookings, it would have to be filtered through Chorus. And so he chose not to take that. Just let me finish. Why don't you let me finish?
You're not answering my question.
I am answering your question.
You're not. I'm asking
I
you
am.
in practice, did you have a single example of a creator who told you that Chorus in practice told them they had to funnel everything through Chorus?
Yes.
Can you? What you just described was not that. So could you?
Well, I'm
trying
trying to give you additional context, but you don't want it.
No, I do, but you're not answering my question.
I just answered your question. Yes.
I don't think you are.
Can you repeat it, Taylor, just in case Hutch missed something? But I'm not sure I heard it to be the same as what was described in the article. So
we spoke. I don't even think we went into this amount of detail in the article. We spoke to a creator that was told when he pushed back on the contract before the contract was signed. He was like, hey, I kind of want to sign this contract. I kind of want to do this program, but there's this clause that says I have to use the Chorus newsroom. Do I really have to use the Chorus newsroom for booking? He was told through his agent, yes, you do have to use the Chorus newsroom for booking. Other people, when they took part in the program, when they said, oh yeah, I'm going to book this thing, they were told you have to use the Chorus newsroom for that. And they did ultimately use the Chorus newsroom. Other people used the Chorus newsroom and never questioned it. It was in the contract, and it would have never occurred to them to even question what was in the contract because they signed a contract saying this, so they didn't challenge it. When they were asked for comment on this, Chorus didn't deny it. And that's the truth. That's all
Well,
the
they
information.
didn't respond to it, but that's not the
No, they
same
didn't
as
deny it.
verifying.
No, they
They
didn't
didn't
deny it.
respond
Well,
to
that's
you.
not the same as verifying that the letter of the contract was actually being enforced, and that's the big issue here. I
They
think with
didn't.
your-
They didn't deny it, and they didn't deny it.
But that's still your job as a journalist to verify that it's
We did
something that's
verify it with the
enforced.
content creators who said on the record that this happened, and that's why it's in the story.
I don't think you demonstrated that in the story.
No,
You
we
We
didn't
have a
demonstrate that
quote
you
from a
spoke with-
creator
with
saying that he
creators.
chose not to sign the contract over this.
That's not the same thing, though. I feel like you're being quite.
Yeah,
evasive
so
with that
to be
answer.
clear, like Taylor, there's a difference between a creator understood this contract to be I can't do anything unless I go through the newsroom,
contract
and they
says-
were not allowed to do it unless they went through the newsroom, and unless they clarify that because they did not comment, it's not really established, and the article portrays it as that is exactly how it was.
The contract, that is how all evidence that we have shows that that's how it was. But
Well-
did some people that maybe not have the contract enforced against them? Sure, I'm willing. I'm sure because clearly they were only enforcing certain parts of the contract for certain people.
Yes.
So clearly,
Well, no, I mean, what is your evidence for that, by the way?
speaking to the content creators.
That's it.
Whether you're a professional technician
or just talking to the content creators, it's just like that's it. That's like all you have. Like, what did they give you anything? Did they give you any like screenshots or something?
Nothing about that was in your article that gave me the sense
Who?
that they were giving
What
preferential
content
treatment
creators?
and not
I mean,
enforcing it here.
I
and
think it-
enforcing
Wait,
it
wait,
there.
wait,
That
wait,
was
wait,
not
wait,
in
wait,
your
wait, wait,
article.
wait, wait.
Well-
What content creators? Tell them. Say us. Say their names. Tell us.
Literally, I mean, you can see in the article certain people. Why do you think this article exists? Because the content creators were frustrated. They wanted to speak out about things. They felt like
Okay.
they weren't able to speak out. That's part of why they spoke.
Well, the other thing was like the takedown clause. Like that sounds very restrictive, right? The way that your article describes that language is that Chorus reserved the right to like strike down any.
I mean, we
content.
quote directly from the contract. Yeah.
I understand. The problem here, Taylor, is with all three of these things, the funneling, express authorization, takedown clauses, would this not be standard language in a contract for a 501c4?
I've seen a lot of these contracts. I just wrote another story for Wired on another dark money influencer program, and none of this language has been in the other contracts that I've seen that are for similar programs.
Okay, but you understand that, like, obviously, like a 501c4, they have to be in compliance with like the law, and to protect their status, they can't have a certain threshold of their operational kind of structure and funds and stuff going towards things like campaigns and elections and things like that. So in that context,
I'm telling you, I
not
write about
read the
dark money.
language? Could you not, wait, hang on, real quick.
Yeah,
Could you not read this language as a company that is trying to protect itself, the status, and the creators themselves from violating the law?
Well, the creators themselves often
True.
didn't agree with what was in the contract and were frustrated that they couldn't speak out, for instance, and disclose that they were in the program. There's nothing
That's a separate issue.
to do with
That's a
the law.
separate issue.
Well, that's in the contract, and that's exactly what we're talking about here,
No,
right?
no, it's not though. I'm talking about the funneling, express authorization, takedown clauses. All of these
Yeah.
can be explained by a 501c4 trying to be compliant with the law.
No, because I mean, I just wrote about another 501c4 that literally just ran another dark money campaign. In some cases, would approach some of the same exact Chorus influencers, and none of this was in that contract. So,
Yeah, but their
for
lack
example,
of potentially standard 501c things is not, is not evidence that this
but
isn't
I'm saying it's
standard
not standard. You guys are saying it's standard. I'm saying that I have not seen it in other contracts. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in some
Wait, Hutch,
contracts.
are you claiming it's standard? You're not claiming it's standard, are you?
Well, based on what I looked into, this language would be consistent with a 501c4 that is protecting.
Is it your claim that it's standard or not?
Hang tight, Pisco. We can talk in a second. So Taylor,
Conveniently, he doesn't want to answer you.
No,
Conveniently.
if a creator, for
tight,
example,
Pisco.
uploaded a video to their channel where they were endorsing a particular candidate, and the channel, this video was framed as something that came from Chorus, could that threaten Chorus's nonprofit status?
I think you'll have to look into the details of sort of like how that creator was
The answer is yes.
disclosing it.
The answer is
Okay.
yes. It could possibly threaten their status. So if they had a clause in their contract that they could take down content, would it not be a better, like a good faith interpretation that they could very easily be trying to protect?
I've never seen a C4 put this stuff in a contract before.
Okay.
And
well,
I've
I mean,
written
I can look into that after this.
But maybe they do, maybe they do. But like I said, I have reported on campaigns and I haven't seen it there before. I haven't, for instance, the Build American AI thing I just wrote about, they don't have Build American AI newsroom that you have to use, like I haven't seen this sort of language.
Would you concede that it's possible? Would you concede that it's possible that this language was specifically crafted to make sure that they were compliant with the law?
Until they comment on the record and explain their thinking behind it, I mean, we have no idea what their motivations were.
Well, but Taylor, I mean, like, let's be realistic.
Okay, so like, oh my God, wait, she's actually super stupid. Wait a minute. So okay, it's very blatant that their language for doing this is to not get in trouble legally with the law. So therefore, instead of just accepting that and coming at it at a different angle or trying to be a little bit more journalistic about it, she just accepted the words of the content creators, and that was it. But I want to see, does she have anything to say about that, or like her claims? Does she have any people that would speak for her? Like, what are the content creators saying? Who are the content creators? Wait, yeah, true.
Here, like, obviously there are things that these people are restricted by. They cannot appear partisan in certain aspects, and
but
so
that doesn't trickle down to. But that doesn't trickle down to the creator. And I'm actually not confident at all in your reading of that. I would really want to talk to a lawyer, and I'd want to talk to somebody that works on these contracts and say, hey, I've reported on lots of these contracts. Why is it only in this contract and not others? Why do they structure it this way and not in other ways?
But
and
my
you're
question
saying
is, why would you not immediately look at this like news reporter tool? Because the way it's painted in the article is like this sinister, controlling tool, and not what makes the most sense to me, which is you need to, make sure that we're not violating the law when you're reaching out to these places.
Because
and
I've never known another
people
C4
were able to
campaign.
schedule things outside with other politicians, so long as it wasn't chorus related, right?
Yeah,
that was
I've
the whole
never.
point.
My point is that I've written about all these campaigns. I've never seen this language in a contract before. I'm not familiar with any sort of booking systems that other people use. I would be very surprised. I talk to content creators that take part in a lot of these sort of campaigns. This is not standard from what I've seen. I'm sorry.
Well,
I know that it's your
this
interpretation
is a new kind
of it.
this is a new kind of media thing, right? Like it's still pretty
it's not that
novel.
New. No.
For
Trump is the
501c4
right wingers
doing
have been
political
doing this.
stuff,
They've been doing this for a while. The right wingers do it all the time. And
you're well aware that 501c4s can lose their nonprofit status if they do too much electioneering, or if they do like event content like around like political campaigns and things like that.
Yeah,
and so I question why it seems as though you and your team didn't even consider that this language in the contract.
We did talk to other people. I had lawyers look at this contract. I had contract lawyers, not to mention all the Hollywood agents that were involved in this. Half the influencers that we spoke to have
Have you ever wondered how content creators are able to quit their job and make TikTok and YouTube?
I don't care. I've been doing it for like over a decade. I've been doing it for like 13, almost 14 years now. I don't give a shit.
And managers at major talent agencies that were involved in this, none of them raised this issue. So I'm not saying that.
Were you made aware of any actual instance where Chorus requested to take down content from any creator?
No, we didn't find any enforcement action on that.
Were you made aware of any creator that had to get express authorization before like setting up a interview with a politician?
We did talk to creators that were told they had to use the Chorus News.
No, but you keep doing this, Taylor. Come on, you're being.
I'm just telling
here.
you. I'm sorry. I'm
not talking about people who are afraid of the contract.
But listen, all I can tell you is what my reporting says, and I know you guys want more. All I can tell you is what my reporting says and what I found and who we spoke to. I'm sorry. I'm not going to keep going around in circles. It is so pointless. None of this is relevant. You don't seem to have this issue with any other article that I've written about this stuff. It's crazy. It's just
this is the only
one.
article of yours that I'm familiar. I did a lot of. I spent a lot of time.
No, like okay, all right. I'm sorry that I'm trying to explain to you what we found in our reporting.
That's fine. I don't want to press you further. I just want to say that I do think that you had an agenda with this article. I do think that you had opinions that you put in the article.
You can join the many that I have agendas on.
I think the narrative that you were pressing was that the big, bad, corrupt establishment was paying Democratic shills and suppressing leftist voices. I think that is
leftist voices.
Where's
the leftist voices in that? Where does it say leftist? Where are you even getting that from?
The opinions that seem to be censored,
oh my God, she's so triggered.
Are too pro climate change, these are more progressive, more leftist ideas that are, as based on what the article is saying.
You guys sound like
suppressed by
TikTokers.
But this is what it says in the article. What do you mean?
I mean, I just honestly, can I tell you, This is I'm sorry to trigger you with the word centrist. This is a mainstream centrist Democrat program. Okay, it's for mainstream centrist Democrats, right? Look at the people that are in it. Overwhelmingly, Brian Tyler Cohen. I would say they're not trying to get radical anarchists for this program. Do you think they are?
I think most reasonable people, when they look at Brian Tyler Cohen, I don't think they would call him a centrist. I think they would call him a partisan Democrat.
A Democrat. This is a program by a notorious pro-Democrat group running a program to increase the Democrats.
What does that mean? Notorious.
Well, 1630 fund is pretty notorious. It's a pretty big deal. I mean, it's a huge.
1630? Are we talking
1630, which is the funder behind all of it, right? 1630 is a notorious dark money group. It is literally the liberal answer to the Koch network. I mean, it's very well known. They do a lot of work in the Democrat space.
Listen, that's a separate conversation about like, about like should Democrats do any kind of dark money stuff while this is the letter of the law because of Citizens United.
Sure. Who cares? But we can debate it. But I'm just saying, like, you guys have this thing, like I have to say, it really annoys me, I guess, because like, I think it's very revealing that you don't engage with most of my work.
She's really annoyed.
I don't need to familiarize myself with your entire body of work to critique this article, Taylor.
Well, I think that the fact that you have only engaged with my work through tweets and through this article has given you a view of things that I would argue.
Taylor, you can't throw that at me. I like your pro-privacy or anti-privacy.
I had this fucking problem with To Be Better. It does not matter what the rest of your shit does, okay? It does not matter if all my shit has been like gaming videos. If I come out and I say something fucking awful or I say something that even if it doesn't like reflect me as a whole, something that is like doesn't actually accurately explain or portray me to people as it probably should, that's entirely my fault. I went through the process of posting whatever. I went through the process of writing the article. I went through the process. You're responsible for that. Even if she's trying to say, oh, you're taking this one article and you're not understanding the rest of, like, you're not understanding the entirety of me, or like you don't understand all my work, that is completely irrelevant. Every single article, every single piece, every single YouTube video I put out, every single thing that you do, Marvel movie, this, that, blah, 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 needs to stand alone on itself, whether it's about politics or entertainment or literally anything. It needs to be able to stand alone on its own premise and basis in order for it to actually work and function and people to enjoy it or people to understand it or people to feel like it is correct or knowledgeable. Like, they need it. You can't just post something that's slop and then expect, hey, guess what? All the rest of my shit is fine and you just don't get me. That is just a super non-answer, and she's completely fucking wrong for that.
Law or pro-privacy laws. I like your anti,
okay, but like, this is crazy
stuff,
that
so, like, I have the same beef.
But I Taylor, I saw you making claims about these people. You said that out of the 90 creators, they're primarily pro-Israel.
The ones that we found.
That's a pretty big claim, but you couldn't name anybody. That's
well, I'm
bizarre.
not going to put them out. I'm not going to. We didn't name the majority of content creators that we found in the program. We didn't name.
Of the ones that you named in the article, you couldn't name a single one that was pro-Israel.
I know that's now who's twisting words. I said you'll have to go through and ask. I don't even remember which creators we named in the article, but you can go through in the ones we did, and you can ask them their stance on Israel.
No, but this is your words. You said that they were primarily pro-Israel, and of all the people you named in the article, you can't give me one. That's bizarre.
Okay, go ask them. Go ask them then. Go ask them. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm asking you. You did reporting on them.
It doesn't say anything about Israel in the article. I don't know what to tell you.
That was your commentary.
He's referring to your tweet on the 27th.
Yeah, and that's my tweet, and I'm not gonna list out the influencers that are not even named in our piece in a tweet. I'm giving commentary on my article. You can read the article all you want. I don't know what to tell you. You guys seem. It's honestly, it's crazy to me. What is so crazy to me about all of this is that for whatever reason, this like random, like these random people like you, this Destiny person, it's like they are like, they have all these issues with the article that like the 16.
Oh my god, this straight reference to Destiny. It was the Marvel, the cameos, the Steve, holy shit. Oh my god, dude. She's so defensive. It's true though. Like, if you're genuinely going to make these claims, where are they? Like, you're the artist of the piece. You put it out there. Where the fuck are the content creators? Why wouldn't you just reference them directly? That's seemingly your only source. right?
30 Fund doesn't have any issues with it. Even the chorus lawyers like don't
I'm
have.
not asking about anybody else. I'm just reading.
But it's just, but I understand, and I do my best. I really try to be an open book, and I really do. Like I go out of my way to engage with people like you that have questions. But at a certain point,
I felt like I asked you good questions, and you got very evasive and frustrated with me.
I would
don't
completely disagree with that characterization. I do not think that you're coming in good faith. I think that you have a clear view of it.
I read that a lot. I looked into a lot of this stuff. I spent a lot of time on this. I didn't want to take it out of context.
I think you probably have gone down a lot of wild goose chases on something that's pretty straightforward.
Do you think influencers that use this? Do you think that like left-wing commentators that use this article to push a narrative that these creators were being paid to be quiet about Israel? Do you think that they were being irresponsible?
Zaxby's giant chicken finger wraps are no snack. Packed with 3 famous fingers, cheddar jack cheese, smoked bacon.
Man, I really love Zaxby's. Huh? There's always a Zaxby's ad.
Have said from the jump that Israel was never a qualification that we found.
I'm asking, do you think that it was irresponsible of them to do that?
Well, as I just said, I'm answering you, and I'm sorry. I know you keep wanting me to say a specific string of words, and I'm just answering you as best as I can.
I think that's a fair question, because a lot of people that you're friendly with did push that narrative that they were being paid to be quiet about genocide, which I think is a really disgusting accusation.
What I would say is that is that we don't know the ideological makeup, and I said this publicly since the article went up. We don't know the true ideological makeup of the entire cohort because
why'd you say they're primarily centrist?
Those are the people that we found, and as I have said from the beginning,
90 people.
God. Again, if the ideological makeup of this program is different.
That's so good. Oh my God, she's so triggered. That's fucking awesome, dude. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep interrupting.
Do share certain ideology. They do share certain belief systems. And if there's this secret group of leftists or further to the right people or other libertarians or who knows what that is also being funded by this program, then I think it would behoove them to publish the roster, because but now
until that comes out, Taylor,
you know what, that kind of made sense. That kind of made sense. Okay, so she's I kind of understand the entire thing a little bit more. So she's got very leftist views, talking about Palestine and talking about being super anti-Israel and saying that the people who are being paid by dark money are centrist people, but she's like specifying like basically just kind of Democrats, saying that they're just center left, which I think is disingenuous. But she's trying to say that they're being paid by dark money and that they are complicit with the genocide, which I think both of those things are probably false. The complicit with the genocide thing, again, I would probably contest the framing of the word work there. The genocides have to be kind of like more deliberate. I think it's just. It might not be that, but it you know, is what it is. I'm not the best person on foreign policy. I don't know that much about foreign policy. I'm not incredibly intelligent on that. I'm trying to learn. That's what we're kind of doing here today. So here we are, guys. Americans are really dumb. I think Americans are really fucking stupid at foreign policy, specifically MAGA people and probably the super leftist people. I think most people just are super uneducated in general. We have no idea what's going on in other countries half the time. I feel like not everybody, but most Americans, I think, are just super uneducated in foreign policy, and that's what I'm trying to kind of combat in my own brain. I'm trying to get a little bit more of an understanding of what's going on around the world.
To cast aspersions and just assume that
I think influencers should be arguing for transparency and say until
but that's not what they're doing. So would it be irresponsible for them to just make these conclusions?
I think there's so much irresponsible stuff on TikTok, and I'm not going to litigate every single thing. But yes, of course they're being irresponsible. Of course there's people being irresponsible. However, that doesn't mean that I think that they're making baseless conclusions based on the very small amount of things, sort of view that they have into it. I'm sympathetic to the people that run the program if they say, well, this is not representative. I would say this is an argument for transparency, right? If you have this whole other class of content creators that are part of your program that have radically different beliefs than the content creators that were made public, then why can they still not come forward? Why can they still not publish their contract? Why can they still not speak out? Why are you still not publishing the roster?
You would have to ask them, but the merits of your reporting are your own, and you're accountable for the things that you say. And when you say, you look at a list of 90 people and they're primarily centrist, and then 2 seconds ago you say, we don't really know the ideological leanings.
We do. No, first of all, the section of creators that we saw They're pro-Democrat. They're pro, and I would call that centrist. Now, there are also
Really?
Just pro-Democrat?
Really?
well, establishment. They're pro-establishment Democrat. We're not talking about radicals. We're not. You're talking about the radical
What does that
people.
mean?
What I mean is that like the leftist anarchist people on TikTok don't seem to be part of this program. I haven't seen any of those people a part of this program. I haven't seen those people connected to this program.
But not being radically left is not the same thing as being centrist, Taylor.
Right, I understand that, but I'm
You're
saying
conflating them.
okay, what label to make you happy? So I don't trigger you with the wrong word. What?
Something reasonable.
No, okay.
Wait. This is the stupidest fucking point of all time. That like the Democratic Party is a center-left party, and we embrace that, right? This show's called Live and Learn.
Do you think Brian Tyler Cohen is a
Wait, Hutch.
you
Democratic Party.
Hutch, real quick.
Hutch. The Democratic Party is a center-left party. Is that correct?
Is Brian Tyler Cohen a centrist?
Wait, Hutch. Can you answer one question?
No.
Answer one question.
No.
Wait. Answer one question.
No. Okay, saying something is center left party is not the same as saying a centrist. I swear to God, every single time I hear the word centrist or see somebody say that they're centrist, they're always saying left and right are both bad. They're equals, which is very fucking wrong. The right is always significantly more bad right now. MAGA is insufferably bad, like doing all kinds of crazy, terrible shit all throughout from their voters all the way up to the president, with every fucking office in between. The left, I'd probably say mostly just the voters are the fucking problem, generally. But okay, let's see what fucking Pisto has to say about this. Just he's gonna fucking button me here, I think.
Is the Democratic Party center left?
Mine. Is Brian Tyler Cohen a centrist?
All right. Hutch.
I'm center left. You're center left. We're all we're centrist.
I'm
Hutch, what is the right word?
Hutch. Wait. Answer the question. Hutch. Is the Democratic Party?
You were using centrist as pejorative, and you know that's what you were doing.
That's different. Hutch. Is the Democratic Party a center left party?
Yes, broadly, yes.
Okay, so if what is meant by centrist, right? It's the stupidest fucking point. If what is all is meant by centrist is you're aligned with the Democratic Party, then this is all analytical, right? By definition, being aligned with the Democratic Party on your own view.
Wait, when you think of the word centrist,
you would have to show in any given case that the use of centrist is more specific, and that you're trying to call out something, and maybe that is actually what Taylor.
Okay, hang on. Are they trying to say that centrists are just like left-wing people like, all the time? I feel like they're not. Am I wrong? Am I like? I don't think so.
Taylor is doing when she's using centrist. Stop! Wait! You can't be complaining about interruptions when you're interrupting everyone all over the place, right? So, in any given context, I think it's on you to just like decipher what the intent is behind using the centrist label. But the Democratic Party is a center-left party.
She was using the word centrist because the people that she was trying to appeal to with that article, and I think it's obvious who she was trying to appeal to, used that word in a disparaging way, similarly to how they use the word liberal in a disparaging way. You know that Taylor uses
Would you guys not describe liberal?
You know
Do you guys not describe liberal? Do you not describe yourself?
Liberal is appropriate. That's an appropriate label.
Okay,
liberals are center-left, correct?
So let's call them liberals, and that will make you happy.
Well, you can have progressive liberals too, right? I mean, I like when I look at Brian Tyler Cohen's
liberal?
I would call him a progressive liberal. Very confidently,
a
call him a progressive
great.
liberal.
Okay, we will use the word liberal, and that will make you happy.
Well, I wish you would have used that in the article instead of saying centrist, because you know that you were using that as a pejorative.
Honestly, you have to call up some copy editor and say that to them. But if she had wanted a correction, she could have gotten a correction. But my point is,
besides the point, though.
It is not beside the point. She could have actually, if that was such a radical mischaracterization of her views, she could have reached out and gotten a correction. I would argue it's not a radical mischaracterization of her.
I guess she could have also like, I don't know if you could sue based on that. Like, well, that's not really defamation, so no. I think overall it's just like I guess she could have reached out, but at the same time, like you should probably hold yourself to a higher standard of journalism and probably know kind of the difference between these terminologies. Calling somebody a centrist generally doesn't mean that they're either liberal or conservative. They're neither Democrat nor Republican. They're probably one or the other or an independent. It really doesn't. I don't think their party affiliation really matters. I think at that point, most centrist people just reject both parties.
Views.
Is it a false statement? right? Is it a
That's-
false statement to call her centrist? I think that's the question. Is it an accurate, Hutch? Is it an inaccurate statement in the article?
Yes, I think it is. Yes.
To call Livia Juliana centrist.
It doesn't matter whether or not it's accurate. What matters is it is clear that calling
but
these
why
people
can't?
centrist is
Okay,
coming from an
accuracy
ideological
absolutely,
perspective, right?
accuracy absolutely. Like,
No,
what is so hard about doing?
Please listen. Please listen to me real quick
my
because you
God.
keep doing this. It's not about the accuracy
crazy.
whether or not this person is a centrist. If everyone in a certain ideological camp calls these people centrist, it is clear that this is coming from a specific ideological perspective and not just this is objective reporting about
I just
whether
don't
or
think
not-
that the Wired article,
is it relevant
I think
to-
the Wired editors are like out to get someone. We're literally just
What are
trying
you
to
out to
describe
get?
issues.
So-
Now,
so-
point taken, I will use the word liberal. I will use the word
So-
liberal, and when I write about these people again, I will use the word liberal. I can promise you that.
Well, I think we're establishing.
I'd like to
a
respond to Soy Pill.
Yeah.
It's the potted plant's turn to talk. All right. So real quick on your on your point, Soy Pill, you say, well, in certain circles, this term can mean something else. I'm totally open to us having that discussion, but I think it's relevant to discuss whether the article is accurate first. That's a relevant thing to consider
cool.
first.
And then we
right?
can say, okay, some people might accurately describe her as a centrist, depending on your ideological point of view, and we can use this to
Right, so-
frame what kind of ideology.
To the extent that it's
came from
accurate,
this article, yeah.
to the extent that it's accurate, it's trivial to observe that most content creators are centrist, because if all you mean by centrist is democratic aligned, then of course it's going to be
Right, and then you can
okay,
use that to say, well, who is calling
that's-
all pro-Democrats centrist, and what kind
What
of
I'm taking-
I
ideology is
think
that?
most Democrats are liberals. Are
demonstrate.
they not? Are they not liberal? Is the
We're not talking about
Democrat not the
we're not talking
liberal
about the
party,
term
guys?
Liberal. We're not talking about the term liberal.
But
We're
you
talking about
said,
the
but
term
we're
centrist.
talking. Okay, centrist.
You use that term. You
is-
use that term. It wasn't your editor in your tweet. You use
Sure,
that term.
I use the
think-
term
yeah.
centrist all the time. I use the term centrist all the time,
In a
but I'm saying it's,
pejorative way.
oh
Anyone
my
can
God.
search your Twitter feed and
my
see.
You
who
could
God.
also
is
say I use the
centrist.
term and you can search my Twitter feed for the term leftist. See what I have to say about the term leftist on my Twitter feed, and see if I'm being really nice about it.
I will after this. I will.
Oh,
I'm curious.
please go do
Oh
it
my
right away.
God.
You'll
I think
you'll
you,
see
I
why.
think you use that language for a particular reason, Taylor.
No, I use
think
language. I am criticizing different political factions constantly, and you'll see. Please search the word leftist
Well,
and
in
see
this
what I have to
story-
say about the leftists. Please search this
In
word.
this story,
Okay,
you're
I
establishing a
understand- I
cast of
understand.
heroes and villains. That's what
Oh
you're
my
doing.
God. Okay. Literally, I'm sorry. I know you think that I have this this is like I feel it does remind me of the Tim Pool universe in a sense, because I have to say,
Oh, no.
like it's like this like niche obsession with like you're secretly our enemy and you're secretly our enemy.
I don't think
and
you're
you, like,
secret
wanted
about
to,
it. I don't think you're secret
no,
about
you
it.
say
I
you
think
hate Democrats,
I think you
Taylor.
have
You're very open
open.
about that.
Yeah, you have open
No,
sort
the
of
Democrats do
hostility
drive
towards.
me crazy, but so do the Republicans. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
what
I
to-
think you've displayed in the past like open hostility towards like people that you consider to be like the establishment or centrist or pro-Israel. But then when I press
And
you on like what
leftists,
these terms mean, you don't really have like great answers.
And look at what I have to say about the right, and look at what I have to say about like literally look at all my political. Like I know that you don't want to engage with other stuff, and I know you feel that you're sort of I've been very critical about your ideology, but if you think that's because
I'm not offended by that. I don't care about. I'm just talking about your.
But you clearly think that because I'm critical of your ideology, that then I sort of ascribe to this other ideology that you really don't like.
I don't know
and
if this
I'm
is about
secretly part of
ideology. To be
that
honest with you, I have no
ideology, and
idea. I really.
that's this
No, but
article.
I don't know what motivates you, but I do know that in the context of this article, you were establishing like a cast of villains, and in this case, you had like these pro-Israel centrist.
It doesn't say anything about
DNC
Israel in our article.
shills.
They're just pro. They
No,
are.
you added that
pro-DNC.
commentary after the fact,
They
and
are
then other creators
pro-DNC.
used your commentary to push a narrative about
No,
them being
they
paid
used
to
the
cover
article-
for genocide.
Well, the Democratic Party, I would argue, has run cover for a genocide. That's
No.
isn't that kind
That's
of
a
why they
separate
lost
thing.
part of it.
That's a separate thing. They're smearing the entire operation as being about like covering for genocide.
Okay, yeah, I guess that is part of the reason why they lost a lot of traction, especially with voting. But isn't it the same like thing like that Trump did? Like, wouldn't I don't know? He was very pro-Israel, like kind of more recently. I don't know. Was he super pro-Israel or anti-Israel like during the election? I don't remember exactly. How much did Trump talk about Israel during the election? Half the time, I don't even know why we're talking about it like at all for like. Outside of like economic purposes or like anything besides like coming together with the UN to do something about about the fucking alleged to the genocide, right? Like tough word there to use. It's just something that I don't really understand, like, why. I want to lock into this so bad, but I gotta finish this. I feel like people are way too obsessed with like any level of support for Israel. It just immediately means to support genocide, and I think that's just ridiculous. Like, at the end of the day, they're our ally. At the end of the day, like, we're supposed to try to have good relations with them, but I don't think we've like even done that. Like, I feel like all we've done is ditch suck them. I feel like all we've done is whatever they wanted. I can't remember the last time we told Israel no on an issue, unless I send it to me. But please, I need to know. I need to know. When's the last time we like were tough with them? Like ally wise, we're not just supposed to do whatever the fuck that they want, and I feel like that's all we've been doing, and I don't like that. But whether it's establishment Democrat or not, I feel like right now the conservatives are just super duper pushing pro-Israel everything.
This includes people like Brian Tyler Cohen and David Pakman and Olivia Giuliana.
Well,
like they were, Hassan himself has made this claim. Like, I'm just curious.
Program.
But you mentioned him. You mentioned him in this article. You mentioned him in the old article. You mentioned him in this tweet.
So fucking Joe Rogan of the left or whatever.
No, but you're presenting the virtuous alternative to the corrupt Democratic shills. That's what you're doing in this whole thing.
I don't think Hassan is taking dark money.
Smart founders know something most people miss. Get your domain name even if you're not ready to launch your business.
But you're not. Are you rejecting that's what you're doing? Like, that is what you're doing, right? Like, you're saying you have these like radical leftists and they're pure and they're not corrupt, and then you have the corrupt pro DNC, pro Israel shills, right?
Please search my Twitter feed and see what I've said about the leftists. I feel like I'm losing my mind.
I did search it, Taylor, and you have been shitting on them quite a bit.
I constantly criticize people all over the political ideology. I very intentionally don't identify with one political faction over the other or whatever. And again, I know that pisses everybody off in that political faction. But what I'm saying is that if you think that this is some bad faith like article that it's meant to like valorize the left and like criticize that's just not what the article says. And I understand that my commentary
the article did say that they're not allowed to disclose their relationship with Chorus.
Yes,
how do you
that's
explain
true.
that? No, it's not though. It's not. We know that's not true.
Wait, sorry. They aren't allowed.
Why is it untrue? Wait.
Why do you think?
It's described in the
Steelman. Why do you think I'm saying that piece?
So I understand. Listen, I have my issue. I want to bring up my issues with
why do you think I'm saying that?
Wait. Hang on. I will definitely address that. I will definitely address that.
Reporting says.
I will definitely address that. Hutch. I will definitely address it. So I want to be clear. I have my own problems with the article. It has to do actually with contractual language in the title. But I mean, at this point, it's been done to death.
I didn't write the title.
Sure.
Don't
the title wrong.
The contractual, the article. Are you asking me or asking Taylor?
I'm asking Taylor. Is the subheading wrong then?
But you can ask her.
That's so important. That's so important. The subheading.
It's not actually wrong.
Well, you just said you didn't write it. So
yeah,
I mean,
journalists don't write their titles.
But you have influence on the byline, on the subheading, right? You can't request. Did you request to change the subheading? Wait, hang on.
No, it's factually correct. Why would I do that?
Hang on. Journalists can't request that a subheading is changed?
I would never do that unless it was factually wrong. It's not factually wrong.
This is absolutely factually wrong, though. I mean, like in your subheading, you say that online influencers were paid up to $8,000 a month to push the party line.
Yeah.
Bro.
But that's how the dex.
My TikTok is riddled with political things of like anti-Trump and anti-Israel stuff. I have posted so many shorts and stuff. Where's my money? Where's my 8K a month? Where the fuck is that? Where is that money at? Let me get that. I got a family to feed. Cut that shit the fuck out. Where's it?
Sorry, the decks in
where's my paid protester money?
Decks,
what the fuck?
Who cares about the marketing decks? We're talking about a realistic like claim.
Right, we're talking about
you're saying that they were getting paid $8,000 to push the party line, and there's no deliverables.
The whole point of the program was to fix the Democratic Party's messaging problem. That's the whole point of the program.
But you're saying paid X to do Y. That's a consideration for some sort of thing on the other end of it. And I did have a question about it, but I wanted to address what was just said about the characterization regarding the disclosure. The article states that the language of the contract forbids disclosure. And I don't have any reason to believe that's untrue.
Yeah, there were at what particular quote are you pointing to here? Do you have the quote in front of you?
I don't have it in front of me, but I know it's characterizing the
contract viewed by Wired that creators signed. The influencers are not allowed to disclose their relationship with Chorus or the 1630 fund, but that's not true.
Are you disputing the accuracy of that? Why do you think it's untrue?
Because there's two different things going on here. There's the qualifier, like according to the contract, but then she's making a claim. The influencers are not allowed to disclose their relationship
under the contract.
Yes, under the contract. Under the contract. That's all.
Well, no, but I think the qualifier is
very clearly that's very clearly what it's talking about is what's allowed under the contract. Do you have any basis to believe that's untrue?
But why wouldn't you verify that was being enforced?
Wait.
That's why they came to talk to us. That's why we have the article.
But Taylor,
so they're probably in breach. Hutch. The answer is they're probably in breach. The answer is they're probably in breach.
I don't know what is in their contract versus what they enforce.
But the question, Hutch, the question stands. Do you have a basis? Hutch, the question stands. Do you have a basis to believe that that's untrue? Yes or no?
The framing of this, I find.
Do you have a basis to believe the statement is untrue?
The framing is dishonest. Do you even disagree with me?
Is the statement true or not? No, I think the other part of the contract. I do, but it's kind of like in poor taste, kind of like lame to just have a pile on. And I have a different problem with the contractual language having to do with funnel through, and that's been done to death. And I can't even get my point heard on that. But I just want to ask you, Hutch, do you have a basis to believe that statement in the article is true? Yes or no?
No, not as it's framed. No.
You think that they were allowed
so you either have a basis, to believe it's false, or you don't.
No. Hang on. You're not saying, like, you're doing the slippery thing, Taylor. There's two different things going on here, right? So, like, were they allowed to disclose their relationship with Chorus or the 1630 fund? The 1630 fund, that is the separate fiscal sponsor. I understand that's like a separate, like, obviously
no, they were accepting checks from the 1630 fund.
Right. So that's where they were the fiscal sponsor. So they did a lot of like administrative stuff. They got.
You have a basis to believe that language in the article is untrue.
This is their BEC. Danger.
So that's one.
Do you have a basis to believe that it's untrue or not?
Because it's true.
Question. So we do know that in the contract that they were not allowed to disclose that they had like a relationship with 1630 or.
So it's a true. So the answer is it's a true statement in the article.
Peace Scout. This sentence right here. Tell me if you think this is true. The influencers are not allowed to disclose their relationship with Chorus.
The paid yeah, exactly.
No, not the paid relationship. No,
yes, their relationship was the relationship
you didn't say that. You
the relation. It literally says the relation. Did you or functionally that they were paid at all? Did you read? Can you read that sentence again?
I can read it right now. According to copies of the contract viewed by Wired that creators signed, the influencers are not allowed to disclose their relationship with Chorus or the 1630 fund, or functionally that they're being paid at all. There's like three different.
The
things
object there is relationship.
Exactly. Pisco.
The first one is Chorus, right? So like you're saying that they are not allowed to disclose the relationship with Chorus. But
man, I need to BRB. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So, trying to see where I left off. I had to move. So I had to move clothes over in the laundry. So.
Relationship is the object. With is the the indirect object, or it's describing what's the thing that can't be disclosed.
No, peaceful. Right? Says the relationship with Chorus or the 1630 fund. That's what it says.
Yeah, those relationships. Fair. Is that a reasonable reading of it?
But we know, and I'm curious if when you were doing your reporting, Taylor, like, were you aware that creators had been open that they were a part of Chorus before you wrote the article?
You can see that we actually link to Ken Bensinger's New York Times article, I believe, or reference it in the piece. I literally talked about that multiple times. It's Chorus, the Chorus itself, like the sort of broader entity that Brian Tyler Cohen started, was the subject of a New York Times article that was very public. So obviously I know that Chorus was public because I've also written about Chorus before. So
unpopular opinion. Okay, I'm sorry about this, liberal people. I don't hate Brian Tyler Cohen. I just find him kind of annoying. I find him a little bit annoying. Sometimes he reports on super non-issues that I just don't think are like super important at all. Yeah, sorry about that. And like advanced.
The influencers are not allowed to disclose their relationship with Chorus or
their relationship with Chorus. Exactly. They couldn't disclose their relationship with Chorus or the 1630 fund or functionally that
But
they
we
were
knew
paid
that
at all.
they did though. Many had discussed their
That's
relationship.
not what but the article describing the contract allows.
Guys,
Yeah.
guys, let me step in here.
He
We got
didn't.
10 minutes left, and I got to say two things. And Guy's been incredibly quiet, and I think we can pivot this last thing into something that Guy will really want to talk about. So first thing is, Taylor, I don't think Hutch is like a white nationalist, because I think you would take grievance with me saying Joe Biden is a progressive, right? Because even if I can describe every most progressive thing that Joe Biden did, it's very clear that we're
I actually, can I tell you
So-
something? Can I tell you something? And I know you guys aren't going to believe me on this. There are ways, like, I talk to people in the Biden world that do argue that Biden was a very progressive president. Biden was a very progressive president in a lot of ways. I actually do think that that could be fair to describe him in that way in certain context. Like if I was reading an article and it described him that way in the context of some of the policies that he pushed that were progressive, I would not take issue with that. And I know, like I said before,
But Taylor, I mean,
you
in your
guys
video,
feel like I
like
have
someone
this-
should do it. Like Joe Biden's like the great Satan for like his COVID policies.
I feel like people don't understand the difference between like being bipartisan or being like a centrist. We're like saying like that being a centrist means you like have policies on both sides, but in all reality, that's just basically being bipartisan. We're like if you're gonna like come out and you have your policies and you want to come out and you want lawmakers to draft up a bill, you're gonna pass it into law. You want there to be some things that the other side is going to want in your law. Like you want both sides to pass this. You kind of need the majority to pass things. So usually being bipartisan is probably like a good thing. It doesn't mean that you're a centrist. I don't know if Biden would ever like consider himself to or have considered himself to be a centrist or not. I'm not sure.
Right? Like you really just like, oh, but he's
Whoa!
like
I would not call him Satan, but I would say that he adopted far-right policies.
genocidal
Okay.
policies on disabled people. Right?
On certain, and I would say
disabled
Israel. and
Genocidal?
Yeah.
Well, on
That was the
Israel
language you've used.
and some other things, sure.
Okay,
sure.
wait, hold on. I was trying not to fight anymore because I know you've.
No,
spoken
sure.
about it.
I don't fuck with Joe Biden at all. I think he's I did not like him as
Mike.
president. Do I think
Okay.
he's better than Trump? Yes.
Well-
but listen, no. But if I was writing an article, for instance, and we're not talking about my YouTube videos or Twitter, if I want to pop off and say whatever I want about Joe Biden, but if I'm writing an article and I'm seeking to be factually accurate, and I call someone a liberal or a centrist or progressive, whatever, and that goes through all these other editors, by the way, often who add, sort of their own whatever. We're trying our best to get things accurate. I'm not going to put like genocidal Joe Biden or whatever in an article that is like a fact-checked investigative article. I wouldn't. I would be like Joe Biden, who has executed XYZ policies or whatever. And with me characterizing Olivia Juliana as a centrist who spoke at the DNC, Hutch, I know you think that that's supposed to be some like neg on her or something. I should have used the term liberal who spoke at the DNC, and maybe that would have triggered you less. But it's not. And I'm not saying that I haven't been critical of centrists. What I'm saying is like, I think that's a very silly point to like take with this article, because I think it's not only is it completely irrelevant to the broader topic of the article, but it's like, I think that you're ascribing a lot of motivation to what is ultimately like a pretty meaningless descriptor that I don't even think is very.
I don't think it was meaningless. I think you were telling a larger narrative. I don't think it was
right.
primarily about disclosure. I think it was about anti-establishment, and then the corrupt like.
Well, they are
establishment show
pro-establishment. They
Wait,
are
we're gonna go in circles, Guy.
Wow.
You've said this before, and Taylor, I think you might have a very strong opinion on this. There is so much dark money coming in from the right, like unfathomably. 1630 was the answer.
Read
right,
my
to the,
other
to the
Wired
profile.
article that came out on Friday.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. By the way, yeah, we'll plug this at the end. Your other
Hutch is gonna
dark
take
money group.
issue with that. You're gonna be like the.
We'll have you back
fucking
on and another
super PAC.
argument. But
We're not
Guy,
anti-AI. We just want to help the AI into. We're not pro-AI.
Wait,
We're just backed by Palantir and OpenAI. We're not pro-AI.
Who's
I'm
this
sorry.
guy?
Listen,
Wait. Let me finish. Guy, you've said we need to use dark money to fight dark money. All bets are off at this point. Why not fight fire with fire? What's your take on that, essentially? And then Taylor, I want you to respond to like Guy's kind of like overall broad point of fight fire with fire.
Well, we're just getting our ass kicked over on the left with
true.
the flooding of dark money. We found out Clavicular is funded by Peter Thiel. I mean,
That's not true. Peter, like Clavicular. I don't know where that came from. He's funded by an Israeli billionaire right now.
Okay,
Who
let
owns-
me ask you a question, then, Taylor, because I've heard that you're a big fan of Hassan, and you said that you're critical of everybody, including left. So, what is one criticism of Hassan that you have? just to dispel this notion that you're in the Hassan camp, because I've heard this a lot, and I'm just it doesn't sound like it, so I want to give you a chance to say what you've been critical of Hassan for.
I think one thing that Hassan could do better, and I'm sympathetic to, I am on the left, and I think I actually
not support terrorism. Yeah, I mean, he could not do that.
I think Hassan gets a lot of like bad faith attacks, so I'm mostly defending him. I think one thing he could do better is speak about issues on specific policies. I think he focuses a lot on foreign policy. I think he doesn't focus enough on tech policy, on other, policy areas that I think he could do a lot of good in. And I think that he focuses a lot more on sort of these bigger issues that maybe get a lot more attention, and that's his job as a content creator. But I think he kind of ignores a lot of.
That's gonna get clipped. Hassan's gonna not be your friend anymore after you said that really awful, mean thing to him.
Well, everything I say, I will say to people's faces as well. And to your point, by the way, about the dark money stuff, just because Clavicular isn't currently, as far as we can tell, funded by dark money, that doesn't mean that I don't hear your point that Democrats should use that is a very legitimate argument to have, because Peter Thiel is funding a lot of people on the right.
And I have another question too, is like, what does disclosure look like? For example, I did an event with Unfuck America recently, and I told my channel, they paid for my flight. I paid for my hotel, my parking, my food, everything. They paid for my flight. But like I feel like the goalpost keeps moving on disclosure. So what does disclosure look like that is satisfactory to you? In your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, again, like I have strict.
Whether you're a professional or just love getting hands-on with your home projects, Harbor Freight offers quality hand tools built to last, backed by a lifetime guarantee.
Shut the fuck up, Harbor Freight.
Like I'm going to be a lot more sort of disclosure friendly because I'm a journalist, so I have to be more disclosure. If you're a political influencer, I'm sympathetic to these political influencers that are like, well, it's my job to be like pro-Democrat, I'm a liberal. Some of them do identify as centrist or leftist or whatever, whatever, progressives, whatever they want to identify as. Right-wing influencers as well, right? Whatever you identify across the political spectrum, there's a bunch of people that they exist to promote a specific ideology, and they're proud of it. And so a lot of them feel like they shouldn't disclose. What I would say is you should still disclose your affiliations. Just say, like, I'm getting funded by XYZ Group. XYZ Group paid me X, especially if they're paying for specific content. Chorus was not paying for specific content. A lot of them don't pay for specific videos for that reason. Because they don't have to disclose as much, it's sort of the norms are not there around disclosure. But I would say just try to be as open as you can with your audience and have some sort of,
Would that be satisfactory for me to just go on stream once and say, hey, by the way, they paid for my flight?
Well, I think one thing that I've suggested to content creators is like have an ethics, like have a FAQ. Like a lot of these influencers have like FAQs about themselves on their websites or their link tree or whatever. And it'll just say like groups I'm working with, or like, hey, I take political money. Here's the organizations that have funded me. Or, hey, I mean, if you don't have to pay for your flight. Yeah, I think it's completely fine to say like, hey, they paid for my flight. I don't think you have to like say it over and over and over again, although that's great if you want to. But I just think like, I hear you, and I'm not saying that nobody on the left should be using dark money groups. The 1630 Fund does amazing work in a lot of areas. They funded a lot of reproductive justice, like health stuff. Like they do stuff that I ideologically support. So I generally am not going to criticize specific like programs that they do unless they're doing that in a sort of a sneaky way. But I think that the system is never going to work out for the left. Like, it's great to use it, why I get your point and I take your point. But overwhelmingly, if we want to dismantle money and more transparency is always going to benefit.
I bring it up because the big boys like Hassan make a lot of money. They don't need to take any funding. They don't need any help. And smaller creators, it's how it is. It's tough. And to do this even part-time can be expensive, and it's rare to make money. And so I just think it's
true.
In my opinion, it seemed like you're being a little harsh on people who are just trying to get a little help. They're not trying to hide anything. They're just looking for help, and it was was offered to them.
Like I said, I have friends.
But it discourages people from taking that help.
And I don't want to discourage that. I don't. What I want is really for the people that run these programs to be honest about it, because I do think listen, this stuff eventually comes out, or there's inconsistencies. Chorus was paying some creators thousands of dollars, and then people with bigger audiences were getting significantly less money. And that wasn't always clearly disclosed either. So I just think like that's going to lead to animosity. If I didn't break this story, these people were going to go somewhere else, right? It was going to be public. So I think in the interest of transparency, in the interest of just like not also giving the other, like giving critics fuel, why not just be open about it, you know? And say like, I think like, you know what's so crazy to me too, by the way? They knew about this story for a month. Brian Tyler Cohen knew about this story. And so did 1630 Fund. They could have, I've said this so many times before, they could have called up the Washington Post and said, we have an exciting new program to announce where we're funding creators. And we're going to be giving $8,000 a month, and it's really exciting. And we're going to give you, you know, whatever journalist writes about it, access to some of the content creators. And we're going to make it this exciting announcement. Not only would that have taken the wind out of like my story completely, I wouldn't have been able to run my story, but also it would have framed it in such a positive light. Why?
You mean the Bezos Washington Post? I don't think that libs have a great deal of affinity right now for a lot of the mainstream outlets.
Ken Bensinger wrote the original story on Chorus. Ken would have absolutely written a follow-up if Brian Tyler Cohen wanted to announce a program like this with a bunch of big influencer names. There's so many media outlets that would have. Or they could have just announced it online. They don't even need to go through media. But I'm just saying, like, instead, they intentionally chose to try to attack the journalists, remain secretive. It's so unproductive.
But what I will say is that
various reasons, or they were just, you know, learning experience.
I think it's funny because they're being paid to like shape narratives, and I think this whole experience shows that they're not very good at it. And the reason I point to Courier and some of these other ones that overtly pay progressive, liberal, whatever you want to call it, Democrat creators, like, because they do it in the open and there's no controversy around that.
You think the new office robot's coming for our jobs?
I don't know.
Like, there's no, like, you know, even somebody like Kat Tenbarge, who's an amazing journalist in her own right, but she's been doing stuff for Courier. There's no controversy. There's no controversy about Ryan Broderick doing stuff for Courier. Like, these people just do the content and it's out there and it's open and people generally support it. Fans want to see the content creators that they like supported.
Well, the frustration, I think, and why I think there's more controversy here, and I'll tell you why I was frustrated, is because of the reaction, which I think we all now agree was unfair. The ones that relate in that there's specific sort of ideological restrictions on what is being said, and some of the notions that it specifically relates to Israel-Palestine. I think that you know, that the article, there is something newsworthy to the actual article, which is the non-disclosure aspect. I think that this all should have been resolved by just disclosing what's going on, but understanding that we're all in a fucking emergency right now. We're all trying to fight a fascist government, and we absolutely need to fund creators and programs like this. And so I was very frustrated.
Sorry to interrupt. We should also know, like, you know, with the Israel stuff, for instance, like, know the qualifications. Like, they never put out public call-outs for you know, to join Chorus. And I think that's such a mistake. Like, a lot of these other creator programs, especially on the left, I don't know about Unfuck America, but certainly there's a lot of other like smaller versions of this, and they'll put out a public call out like, hey, we're looking for creators. We want people under the age of 40 or people that appeal to women. We're looking for beauty and lifestyle creators that are in, you know, that lean progressive, whatever. They'll put out call outs for creators. And they say, this is what we're evaluating people on. These are the views. We don't care about this. We care about this. Or you're not held to specific like content, you know, but there's just no transparency in this program. And with that lack of transparency, you get speculation. And that's why I say to anybody that says, well, most of them are not pro-Israel, most of them are not whatever. Okay, then release the roster so that we can accurately, you know, identify, release the qualifications that you're using to judge who gets into the program. Other people put this stuff up online.
But Taylor, if you make that claim, I feel like it's on you to substantiate it. When you make the claim that 90% are primarily pro-Israel, I think it's on you.
Of the ones that we identified. Sure. The ones that we identified.
But as we discovered tonight, your sort of like basis for categorizing people in these ways is, I would say, dubious.
Well, that's your opinion, but I guess we're gonna, you know, just disagree on that. But
that's just your opinion. This is how you feel about it.
My commentary on my article, which is just commentary on an article. So I'm sorry that we're gonna disagree on that specific point of commentary on the article, but you can read the article and everything stands very clearly in the story.
Let's end on that note, Taylor, that we do agree to disagree.
Also, read my other reporting.
Yes,
the article
Taylor,
that I published on Friday, Hutch.
other than
and
that,
see
I
if
have.
you
Yeah, link your article
will,
in the description about this, the Palantir, and this. I read it. I think this is frankly kind of scary that you can just label anything an ad, and this is paid propaganda. You don't have to say where it's coming from or what the agenda is. So yeah, everyone, please go check out Taylor's new article. But anything else, Taylor, that you're shouting out? Any appearances? Any books? I mean, I didn't even know you'd written a book, but yeah.
Well, I think Pisco already knows what I'm going to say, which is we have to kill these identity verification laws and mass surveillance. We didn't talk about it. It's so frustrating that on a Live and Learn podcast that we are witnessing the decimation of our rights, of our civil liberties under a fascist government. The Trump administration is rolling back free speech protections at a rate that we have never seen in our lifetimes. It should horrify people.
Why would you talk about
there's no discussion of that on this podcast, it seems like, and it's really frustrating, especially to have a tech journalist on here who does so much reporting, who dedicates my life to covering this stuff, and you guys want to litigate whether I called an influencer a centrist in an article I wrote a year and a half ago.
Taylor, I had you on. Pisco had you on. We talked about it.
I know, but I'm talking about this podcast. I want every single person that listens to this podcast to go right now to stoponlineidcheck.org and fight back against these censorship and surveillance laws. It's terrifying. We have laws right now, the GUARD Act in Congress that is ostensibly cracking down on AI. That's not cracking down on AI. It's just removing anonymity from the internet, and it's devastating. It's horrible.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Taylor. I'm going to let you go. We're going to do our little wrap up here, but last question: do you now acknowledge that Hutch is not Dan Saltman?
Okay, I do need to be able to tell the difference between the two, and I'm really sorry. But you guys say a lot of the same things.
Oh gosh! All right, thank you, Taylor.
But I will.
Pleasure. And
now that I've seen you, I will remember in my memory.
Let me just say, I do appreciate. I respect the fact that you came in here and you agreed to that exchange, and I do respect that. I want to reiterate that I appreciate the fact that you are calling attention to, like the issue of money in politics and disclosure. I think it does matter, and I think we need journalists that are.
I wanted the word cuppa
terrible
as in cup of tea.
Spot for an ad, bro.
Great.
Terrible spot for an ad.
Covering these things, and so I'll try to be as graceful as I can at the end of this. But I respect you coming on, and
it's fine. We can agree. But thank you for shouting out. Everybody, go to stoponlineidchecks.org, and I'll see you guys there.
Bye, Taylor.
Thank you.
Okay, bye guys. Bye.
All right. Well, that was an episode of Live and Learn. How do we all feel about that?
The books. I mean, I think the centrist point is fucking stupid. That's just my view. I have issues with the contractual language of the through thing, but I didn't feel like those were aired. I just think like calling it a centrist or not, that's like
it was just indicative of the slant, right? This is what Hutch was trying to point this as like a narrative.
I think the title is the best.
Yeah, sure.
Focus on the title. Yeah, the title and then the tweet which you did, which is good.
Let me, Pisco, if you were to Steelman, like, what larger point do you think I was making?
No, I understand the point about like bias and stuff, but the factual accuracy point, that's what I thought was bizarre.
It wasn't about bias.
Well, sure it was.
No, it's not about bias. It's about she claimed that her article was about disclosure, and I think her article was about something more meta than that. I think she was.
Yeah, I think her article was trying to like push a negative opinion on those people. The one woman I think that she was talking about. I think her article, so far from what was being said, from how she defended it, I haven't read the article. I probably should. It seems to be more along the lines of like something that she was not trying to talk about disclosure as like a main issue in any capacity. If anything, she even acknowledged that the right does this a lot more than the left, and that the main issue of dark money comes from the right and not specifically from the left, although it does happen on the left. And she even said that the people who did do the dark money were kind of good people that pushed some progressive things, that did some very good things. She even acknowledged that, but still decided to make like a negative article anyway, and and miscategorize an entire person based on their political beliefs. And I think that is important to call out. Like, I don't think Hutch is wrong on this by any means necessary. I think Pisco is kind of downplaying it a little bit, but I do agree that with Pisco that it might be like a little bit of an exaggeration. It might be a little bit too much of like a deep dive into this, but I do think she was trying to be nefarious in the sense of, like, you know, just putting out a bad faith article. I think that's kind of what the whole thing was with her. I think Hutch is more right here in that situation. I don't need to talk any further about this right now. I'm probably gonna wrap this up. Let me wrap up when I'm playing. I'm probably gonna be done here with the content there. I don't need to look into that anymore. I think I kind of got the full story, which, like, all right, it wasn't too bad. She got a little roasted. She was kind of wrong. Taylor did not do very well, not at all. But yeah, W Hutch for sure.
I see some dreams will never look back, when treasure and tales would fall on track. A fierce crew united